since we got that. So call this meeting to order. 7:30 p.m. A special legislative meeting of the Town Council of Riverdale Park. Members of the council, you have an agenda before you. Are there any changes required to this agenda? Hearing none, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
So moved. Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Foe. Is there any discussion of the motion to approve the agenda?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Were you going to ask about stated conflicts of interest for agenda items?
I was going to do that as part of the discussion, sir.
Oh, normally you do that beforehand.
So we have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda. Are there any conflicts of interest for any council members on this agenda?
I've none.
None.
Hearing none, I'll go ahead and move to a roll call vote. Well, are there any public comments on the agenda? Excuse me. Seeing no unmuted microphones and no hands up, I will assume that's a no and move to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia. Councilmember Mejia.
Aye.
Thank you. And is Councilmember Callan here this evening? I don't see him. So he is not here. I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda, are there any public comments at this special legislative meeting? Again, hearing none and seeing no unmuted microphones or hands raised, we'll move on to the single legislative action item. Motion to send a letter of support to the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development for the town's grant application. Would someone like to make such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Lingua. Is there staff discussion of this action item?
Director Shelton, can you brief the council, please?
Mayor and council, members of the public. The Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development has a grant program for which we have applied to support our commercial activities and our commercial support programs. So we have a number of programs to help businesses who are performing facade improvements or building rehabilitations. And we applied for some grants through the National Capital Strategic Economic Development Fund to help support these grants and encourage more participation. In fact, we've applied for $245,000 to support these grants and expand these efforts. DHCD has asked that the town submit a letter of support for the application, and so that is why we are bringing this item to you today.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Town Manager.
The one thing I would add, Mr. Mayor, this is in keeping with the town's overall effort to seek grant funds. Historically, we've been supporting these programs from transfers from the general fund to the Economic Development Fund. And by seeking this type of funding, we would not need to make as large a transfers in the future to support the programs.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager, for those clarifying comments. I would like to remark for the record that Councilmember Callan arrived during the discussion, so
Good evening.
he is now in attendance. Is there council discussion of this motion to write a letter in support of the town's grant application?
Okay.
Mr.
Well,
Mayor,
I'm listening.
Okay,
All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
go ahead, Councilmember Inyang.
Excited to see the grant application, and I think definitely in favor of the letter. The town manager mentioned that this was sort of part of a larger push to get grant funding. This $245,000, how much of it sort of replaces the typical grant allocation that we've done in the past? Is this like the entire amount? Is this a portion of it, or does this allow for sort of greater usage of funds, as in, hey, now we can give larger grants as a result of this? So we'd love to get some context for what the $245,000 means.
Director Shelton, can you give a little historic perspective?
Yes, so historically, this $245,000 would actually be greater than what the town typically allocates for the Economic Development Fund. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Town Manager, but that $245,000 would typically be greater than what we've typically allocated. So this would allow us to expand or create additional, I guess, more specific programs as well. We're open to both. I think the grant application was written with primarily expansion in mind, though, and in growing those grant programs, I guess, to as you said, provide more support to businesses that are applying.
Thank you. And then my last question is just is there timing in terms of if we get the funds, how long the funds, or when we'd be eligible to use the funds? Is it just a fiscal year thing, or is there sort of a sunset clause in terms of when the funds have to be used by?
I know there is a sunset clause. I'm having trouble remembering which grant the deadline I'm remembering right now. So I'll have to follow up with you in an email on that one. I don't want to speak to the wrong grant. I can give you the wrong deadline. So I'll follow up with you in an email on that.
Thank you.
Any additional council questions or comments? Are there any members of the public who have a question or a comment on this item of business? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
and Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
Thank you. I abstain. The motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda, if we can hop back to there, is new business. Are there any items of new business?
Yes.
Councilmember Callan?
Well, the new business I have is that I toured some of my areas and I went to Riverdale Plaza, like the CVS, all that area, the parking lots. They need to be repainted. Even the handicap tag area, all are faded. So I don't know what is going to happen about that. That's the only thing that I discover right now in my own ward area, Riverdale Plaza. All the parking lots, all the paint are faded. So that is all.
Okay, I don't believe that the council has enough information at this time to take action this evening. But we can certainly discuss this further during the work session that will come after the special legislative. And we can potentially look at legislative action to address the issue of faded parking lots. So thank you for bringing that up, Councilmember.
Okay, thank you.
Any other items of new business? Are there any items of unfinished business?
Unfinished business. I'm on my leg again.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
I'm still advocating for this speed bump here and Spring Lane, this street light on that corner. The place is too dark. And a lot of the residents over there, they are grumbling about it. And you told me in August meeting, we can discuss that. There another unfinished business. This is for all of us, not for me alone, all of us, the mayor and the council members. Our pay is too low to rise our pay up. It's for all of us, not me alone. So that's another unfinished business. We brought it the last time. You said you're going to look into it. So that's my other unfinished business. I thank you all.
Thank you. We actually discussed this, the item of the speed humps on the walk and talk a few weeks ago. And there's a process to go through, and that process has been started, but it's a few month-long process at best. And so it's going to be a little while before we can take action on that. But thank you for bringing it up.
During that, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Mhm.
During that walk and talk day, I was seriously have a severe cold and cough, and I sent the notice to the acting mayor and the town manager that I'm sick. I can't be able to participate.
Well, if you had a cough and cold, I'm actually quite glad you did not attend, but I did want to let you know that we did discuss it with some residents, and the residents agree with you. And as I said, the process is moving forward. It's not an instantaneous process to just to ask that some speed humps be installed and then they're there the next week. It takes funding. It takes verifying that it meets standards that have been established by previous councils for how, when, and where to install speed humps, and that process is underway.
Oh, okay.
And the traffic light, that is a matter that we'll have to negotiate with state highways. Why don't we discuss that under new business again in the work session?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, my laptop is giving me problem here, man. Yeah.
The technology is often our friend and often not our friend.
Yeah, it always went off.
Okay. Are there any additional items of unfinished business? Hearing none, I will may I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn special legislative meeting.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Inyang, seconded by Councilmember Fo. This motion is neither debated nor discussed, so I'll move immediately to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Fo,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
Councilmember Callan,
Aye.
and I abstain. We are adjourned. The vote passes 6-0. We are adjourned at 7:44 p.m. So that brings us to our work session. If we can bring the work session agenda up. So we'll call the work session to order. This is a much less formal meeting, called to order also at 7:44 p.m. So we don't have to take votes. We don't have to make motions. It's mostly just discussing. Are there any items on the agenda that need to be changed or items that need to be added? And are there conflicts of interest for any of the agenda items this evening from any council member? Hearing none, then let's go ahead and if you can scroll back up, whoever is controlling the screen. Let's go ahead and head into the presentations. First is University of Maryland Development Projects, Vice President Carlo Colella and our good friend, well, both are good friends, Carlo Colella and Danielle Glaros.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. And joining me in going through this brief presentation is Ed McGinnis, who heads up our real estate activities on campus, and Ken Allman, who is the president of the Terrapin Development Company and also Chief Strategy Officer for Economic Development at the university. And I'm proud to work with those two gentlemen, as well as Daniel Gueros in my capacity as Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer of the university. If we can go to the next slide, I'll just highlight very briefly the agenda. Having just completed the brief introductions, I want to talk a little bit about the university's recently completed campus facilities plan. In years past, those were referred to as master plans, sort of a 10 and 20-year look at our development activity. Following that, Mr. McGinnis is going to talk a bit about Purple Line, and then we're going to follow that with Mr. Allman describing development activity of particular interest, we think, to the Riverdale Park community, and then we'll be prepared to address any questions or feedback that you might have. So if we can skip to the next slide, and actually you can go one past that. Just want to highlight a few pieces of information that hopefully many in the community already know, but we're quite proud of the work that we do as the flagship institution of the great state of Maryland. Currently, our enrollment is right around 41,000 students. That's about 10,500 undergraduate students and slightly over 10,500 graduate students and about 30,500 undergraduate students. We continue to perform very well in public rankings. So our among public research universities, we are in number 14. So that very proud of that, and have a top 10 ranking in entrepreneurial programs for our undergraduate students. If you go to the next slide, a couple of other very recent rankings that we're especially proud of. The first one is there's a ranking from the World Universities, sometimes referred to as the Shanghai rankings, where we place number 50 overall worldwide, all universities, all countries, public and private. And we're in that ranking ranked 11th in US public institutions. The next couple of bullets there, I want to mention that we are an employer of choice, as noted by both Forbes magazine, where we were recently ranked number 7 in terms of America's best employers by state, and top ranked in the state of Maryland, as well as Newsweek ranking us one of the greatest workplaces, and we got a 4-star rating there. And then the last bullet here, a campus pride index, we ranked number 1 for students from the LGBTQ community as measured by the Campus Pride organization. And our research expenditures, as you can see on the little graphic on the right-hand side, has eclipsed $1.1 billion. And this is combined research expenditures for the College Park campus and our sister campus, the University of Maryland, Baltimore. So if we go to the next slide, I'll start talking very briefly about our campus facilities plan. And what you see here, hopefully this is a familiar image for you. This is one of our most recently completed buildings. It's the Brendan Arib Computer Science Center. It sits right at the juncture of Baltimore Avenue and Campus Drive. And the image here is from the paint branch. And one of the things we're very, very proud of with this building and that we worked into our facilities plan is really embracing sustainability and coexisting very nicely with our natural environment. We can go to the next slide. I'll highlight here the university completed a strategic plan about a year and a quarter ago, and you can see the graphic on the left-hand side that identify the fundamental pillars of that plan: reimagining learning, taking on grand challenges, investing in people in our communities, And what we have followed in terms of our master plan key themes are to create, in support of the strategic plan, high impact campus environments through our buildings and grounds, a holistic placemaking approach to our physical space, a focus on people first mobility, and as I mentioned, sustainable stewardship and investment in our physical environment. We go to the next slide. This graphic I hope you will find particularly interesting, and this is just a depiction of how the lands around the university have been used over time. To your far left is a facilities plan from the late 1930s called the Cutler Plan. And this is very much like a traditional campus development where you have a mall and you have buildings surrounding the mall, and then you have some satellite activities sort of outside of those that cluster right around the campus core. And then the graphic in the middle shows the post-World War II development boom of the campus. So what you start seeing there are major land uses like the stadium and Cole Fieldhouse when it was a basketball arena and athletic fields and so forth, encircling the traditional campus core. And that resulted in a bit of leapfrogging beyond the campus perimeter with other buildings, academic buildings and research buildings. So sort of the big move in this version of the campus facilities plan is depicted on the right side, with the campus core essentially around McKeldin Mall and reinforcing that as our campus core. And then encircling the campus core and extending, importantly, across Baltimore Avenue, across the CSX tract, and into the eastern portion of what we refer to as the Discovery District that we share between the city of College Park and Riverdale Park, is where we want to put our academic and research activities. And I should say, expand upon the work we've already done there. Many of you know that we already have significant partnerships in Riverdale Park. We have some campus activities located there as well. And we'll talk a little bit about development activity in that area. But I would say this is sort of the big move in our facilities plan, is to try and bring some order to what had become a bit of a sprawling development and really work hard to connect the lands west of Baltimore Avenue to the east as far as Kenilworth Avenue. So we go to the next graphic, and a lot of building images here, but this is just trying to illustrate graphically, and this is sort of a 20-year look. Most of the development here is shown right around the campus core. These are mostly infill projects and focusing on academic buildings where it's important for students who are changing classes to be able to get between classes in a reasonable period of time. If you look very carefully at this, you would see some decanting of low-intensity land uses from the core or near core to the perimeter of the campus and properties that we own just on the edges of the campus. But this is one of the graphics that speaking to our university community, they can sort of see, again, mostly infill development. And a lot of this is focused also on the, which I'll point out on the next slide if we go there, a real focus on mobility. And in recent years in particular, we have redirected project siting to contribute to the activation of Baltimore Avenue and the move of converting Baltimore Avenue from a state highway, sort of just bisecting the university from its community and really knitting it together to really bring the university and the surrounding community closer together. Of course, important developments along Baltimore Avenue have really contributed to that. And Riverdale Park Station is a great example of a major destination and part of taking a sort of a highway that just cut through our community and really bringing amenities and housing and other uses to help convert Baltimore Avenue into our collective Main Street. And of course, in the other direction, we have the Purple Line that is well underway, finally, I'm happy to say. And our building activity, both on campus and as we move into the Discovery District over to Riverdale Park, we focused a lot of attention there. So those two important primary transportation corridors we're trying to leverage, as well as converting within our own campus, our streets to make them complete streets, to connect them to pedestrian and bicycle and scooter pathways, and then also engaging the beautiful physical environment that's around us with a paint branch to create walking paths and recreation paths. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our good friend, Mr. McGinnis, who has been involved in the Purple Line as long as I have, and have him carry the next few slides. Ed?
Thank you, Carlo. Good evening, Mayor Thompson, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be here. The photograph you see in front of you demonstrates better than anything else can that the Purple Line is real. It's coming. It's a bit disruptive right now, he said, in a bit of understatement, but it's going to make a difference. Carlo talked a little bit about the master plan, and I'm going to focus, and Ken Ullman will talk even more about the investment that the university and TDC are making sort of to the east, closer to Riverdale Park in our Discovery District. But I want to pivot that way by talking about the Purple Line, because I do think it's an important part of the story and the narrative. So next slide, please. Just as a general proposition, I think we all know at a regional level, the Purple Line is important because it connects 4 spokes of WMATA's heavy rail system and all 3 of the lines of MARC's commuter rail system, as well as Amtrak's Northeast Corridor at the new Carrollton station. It really does make a big difference with respect to transportation infrastructure that helps advance our local economy. But on a more local level, and I've said this to some people, but I don't know how well known this is. So the university and MTA have negotiated part of the deal that, again, Carlos said we've been working on for a long time, that allows University of Maryland ID holders to ride on the Purple Line from 5 stations. And those 5 stations start at Riverdale Park North and go west to the Adelphi Road Global Campus Station. And in that 5-station zone, Purple Line effectively becomes a free intra-campus shuttle for the University of Maryland community. And I think that's really important. We'll talk a little bit more about it, about activating the areas closer to and in Riverdale Park. Next slide, please. So obviously we talked a lot, Carlo talked a lot earlier about what we're doing on campus core. I mean, this is sort of the research and academic heart of the campus. And you can see here 3 of those 5 Purple Line stations. But if we go to the next slide, this is, so the building all the way on the right-hand side here is the already built 4600 River Road building. That's in our public-private partnership with Corporate Office Properties Trust. The rest of what you see is the conceptual site plan for the almost 500,000 fully built development here. And in the foreground, not by coincidence, is the Purple Line rail that runs there. And both the College Park Metro Station and again, the Riverdale Park North Station are going to be connected so that there will be an easy, car-free transportation network that allows this to be just the whole community to be all knitted together just from an economic development purpose and a functionality perspective. One of the examples of what that can do for us is, it's a little bit off the screen here, but just down the road at 5801 University Research Court, the university's Division of IT relocated from a series of spaces on the campus core and consolidated in that building. And so having this shuttle in effect gives us the ability to do more of embedding university users over there, as well as, next slide, some of the private sector users that Ken Holman is now going to speak to.
Great. Well, thank you, Ed and Carlo and Mr. Mayor and members of the council and your staff. Thank you very much for having us this evening. As you can tell so far, I think, and hopefully over the next few slides as well, and any questions, we spent a lot of time thinking about this, and you're important to us. Riverdale Park is really important to us. It's important to our vision with the Discovery District, and you'll hear me talk more about the same threads that Carlo and Ed laid out, that we really are focusing on the path of the Purple Line very intentionally. And let me just take a moment to mention the Terrapin Development Company, because sometimes people hear about what is this company and what do they do? And we're here. Let me tell you why the Terrapin Development Company was created. So the Terrapin Development Company is a real estate development company like any other. However, we are a joint venture. So we have two owners. We are co-owned by the University of Maryland College Park and the University of Maryland College Park Foundation. And our mission is to create long-term value for its members while transforming, yes, the dreaded Greater College Park, which does include Riverdale Park, let me be very clear about that, into a vibrant, diverse, and walkable community that attracts the best faculty, staff, students, and galvanizes a culture of research and entrepreneurship. That is why we exist. And so what essentially we were able to do is dip into the endowment when we found real estate opportunities that were impactful. So for example, we developed where Trader Joe's is now, the Astor with Bizzuto, with the old Quality Inn, and took that dilapidated older hotel and then started a process to develop some much needed housing for targeting faculty and staff, and a grocery store, which was much desired in the region, and we're very excited about that. Also, the hotel and a number of other projects that we've done. If you go to the next slide, please. I want to continue the thread here of the Purple Line. As Carlo talked about, and I just mentioned, the Astor, Trader Joe's, the hotel, Terrapin Development Company was also a partner in the City Hall project. So we own the retail on the first floor. The university has the top two floors in the city of College Park. Most of our investment had been on Baltimore Avenue because it was a real priority of the university to improve the main street, as Carlos said, and that obviously is very important going south along Baltimore Avenue, Riverdale Park Station, further south to Riverdale, Hyattsville. But we've now really pivoted to really focus our attention as well on the route of the Purple Line. And so if you think about the three nodes that we consider the Discovery District, and by the way, we consider the Discovery District essentially everything that the university owns or is deeply engaged in on the east side of Baltimore Avenue. So there is no official border. It's not a municipality. It's not a bid. It's sort of this notional enterprise, the Discovery District. And so if you think about what we call Discovery Point, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but that's the area that surrounds the hotel. And the image up on the left is the first phase of Discovery Point with a partner, Brandywine Realty Trust. After a competitive RFP, they were selected a few years ago. The first phase will bring 300,000 square feet out of the ground of tech-focused office space with retail on the first floor. And this is right next to the hotel on the surface parking lot between Testudo Way and Campus Drive and Diamondback and Baltimore Avenue. What you see on the left, by the way, is that glass box will be the university's new visitors and welcome center. So we're very excited about that, very prominent location. And then as you move east, you see where it says Aviation Landing and Metro Gateway. And I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit of detail in a moment. But some of you may be aware that Prince George's County put out an RFP to sell that surface parking lot directly across River Road from the Metro. If River Road continued across that parking lot adjacent to JTCC, Terrapin Development Company joined with the Castle family that owns most of the warehouses and auto repair garages. And we formed a joint venture to redevelop that area. The picture on the lower left is an image of the plaza that if you're getting off the Metro, you'll be staring. This is what you will be staring at on the lower left. And then continuing east, focusing on the node at the River Road Purple Line Station at the University Research Court, really focusing on how to engage that area that has what we call the Art Walk, but frankly could be a little more dynamic, engaging area. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this does just show you, and I know this is not in the town of Riverdale, but I took a leap that Riverdale Park, that I took a leap that you'd still be very interested in this because we all know this area and we all know that the county has been trying to do a transit-oriented development at this very important metro stop. Now with the nexus of the Purple Line, add in the MARC train, and then you add in the amenities of the airport, aviation museum. I personally hate the fact that the wonderful, beautiful Smithsonian quality aviation museum is buried behind a number of buildings and most people don't know it exists. And so we're really going to celebrate aviation, the history of innovation here. And this gives you, I'm happy to share at another time more details of this, but the first phase will be the project that you see directly in the foreground. If you go to the, actually to the right there, sorry, to the right, that'll be the first phase. That and the plaza are actually on the parcel that the county is selling to us. And that will be a multifamily development with an active first floor of both retail, and the university has pledged we're going to launch an aerospace engineering innovation hub in the first floor of that building as well to drive jobs to the area. If you go to the next slide, please. This is another drone image of an area that you all know very well, but I still think it is helpful sometimes just to pause and take a look. And obviously this area was developed in a very car-centric, very, lots of surface parking lots, very suburban style. And while convenience and parking are still very, very important, we're trying to bring some smart growth, TOD tools to make this a more walkable, more vibrant place. Obviously, the parcels that we added, and we'll talk a little bit more, but if you start on the left, clearly the bridge to Riverdale Park Station is absolutely critical, as is the access to, I'm going to talk later on, but I think I spend as much time talking up 250 Barbecue and Manifest Bakery and Riviera Tapas as I do about anything else, because that vibrant node is so critical when we're recruiting companies and agencies, or frankly, just convincing university divisions that, hey, like Ed said, IT moving out, gosh, now you can go to lunch at 250 Barbecue. Although I can't eat the big beef rib, I must say that has to be after dinner, or else there's a nap after lunch. But you can see here the number of federal agencies, and you can see the parcels we have with COPT, and then with St. John's Properties. And we'll talk about this more in a moment in future slides. We can always come back to this image if you want. I have a few more slides to go through. If you go to the next one, obviously, we're very proud of the College Park Academy and the College Park Academy in Riverdale Park. And Carlo, did you want to say anything here? Carlo's been incredibly instrumental, obviously, in every aspect of our grade 6 through 12 public charter school.
No, just to point out how successful it has been. A part of the enrollment for College Park Academy is from a catchment area that includes the 6 closest elementary schools to College Park Academy. And I can tell you it's a joy when I see students biking and walking. Sometimes the traffic to get over there can be a little bit difficult if you're in a car, but it's been hugely successful, and we're really pleased to have that as one of 3 buildings. And I just want to thank the city, the town of Riverdale Park, for their support some years ago to allow us to bring forward not only the College Park Academy, but also the 2 Flex R&D buildings that Ken will talk about in a second.
Yeah, and if you go to the next slide, I hope that's next. I think we positioned it. Look at that. Unfortunately, our images were from the marketing materials, and we didn't have the ones where the place was open with logos and things like that. But I do want to just take a brief moment. I hope you'll bear with me. On the upper right, we included a few logos. And I know from a planning perspective, sometimes these buildings are not favored by planners, and I certainly understand that, because they're not sometimes the most effective use of land. But on the other hand, we are spinning out so many interesting companies that make and build things, and frankly, harken back to the age of innovation in the area when this was Airco and they were building airplanes on this very site. And if you think about MedCura, MedCura is a spin-out biology company. They make a substance that stops bleeding. If you go to any CVS in the country, Walgreens, you can get their product, which is called Rapid Seal, and it's literally made in your town, in a spin out of the university. Aero Threads is a woman-owned company that makes custom thermal blankets that wrap satellites for NASA and SpaceX and the private sector. Locioni is an Italian-based robotics company that has their R&D facility for the North Americas here. And then the Shed, am I still here? Oh, okay. Sorry, I had something going on with my computer. And the Shed is, I don't know, hopefully you all know this. If not, we need to bring you all to the Shed. The Shed is a recording studio and a rehearsal space that is part of Javon Gilliam's business. Javon happens to be the timpanist at the National Symphony Orchestra and also leads our percussion department at the university, and also owns Capitol Percussion, which is a major music instrument rental business that the Kennedy Center and Wolf Trap and Strathmore, et cetera, use. And so we're also looking to promote his business. If you go to the next one, I know I could go on and on, so I'll try to speed up a little bit. But we talked about the buildings in our partnership with Corporate Office Properties Trust and the image that Ed mentioned. This is a very vibrant partnership. The new building that you see on the left, a little bit outdated photo, Cybrary moved over, took the top floor. 3 of the 4 floors are fully leased, and we're looking for COP to get going on the next building. If you go to the next slide, this is a really exciting announcement. Which, Ed, do you want to be the one to make it? I think Ed deserves the chance to make this official announcement, and then turn it back over to me, and I'll continue. Go ahead, Ed.
Right. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but so the university owns about 120 acres to the east of the railroad track, and we were making these acquisitions at the same time the American Center for Physics was building its 107,000 square foot building at 1 and then 3 and 5 physics ellipse. In 2 weeks, the university will own this building. ACP is going to remain in a smaller presence. They're going to lease back a floor of office space. Their library, the Niels Bohr Library, will stay in place. They've got a 10-year lease, but the balance of the building will go over to university users. We're actually really excited about. I think some of you have been over there. They've got some really superior conference facilities in this building, and it has the ability. That conference facility has the ability to sort of be a central hub and meeting place in this area of the Discovery District. That's the big reveal.
And just to play this out a little bit more, the picture you see on the right is actually from their marketing material when they reached out to the private markets to sell. What you don't see here, because this is only one slide, is they advertised pretty significantly that the highest and best use was probably a dense multifamily residential project, with the building perhaps no longer being there. And so the university felt very strongly that this is a world-class building. It's in great shape. It's got a great conference center, as Ed said, and we were able to negotiate the fact that they're going to stay here. They just don't need as much space. And so we're really excited that that conference space will be able to serve as a hub of thought leadership. We're already planning conferences with NASA and NOAA and quantum computing conferences, et cetera. And so we're really excited about the ability to bring more activities to this. And the university is going through a process to figure out which university divisions to assign to this building of about 100,000 square feet. Go to the next slide if you could. Oh, see, there you go. And I'm an avid cyclist. I bike the trails all the time. Saturdays and Sundays, I'm stopping by. You can see me sitting outside many of these fine establishments, spending my money in town. And really, I'm just so pleased. Everyone that has done so much work to the farmers markets, the Old Town Market. I mean, just keep it going and count on us as a partner as we move forward. I think maybe I have only 2 more slides. I know we're probably going long. Also, we obviously promote Riverdale Park Station as well, Denison's, Burton's, District Taco, obviously Whole Foods. And when we're marketing to companies to come to the Discovery District, you know, their demeanor changes a little if they're from out of town and, oh, there's a Whole Food. Oh, okay, tell me more. And so it really is very meaningful, the work that was done here and your partnership, and that bridge to connect this all has been really critical. If you go to the next slide. Just in a nutshell, Ed mentioned some of the divisions. I don't think we put IT on here. I should have, but not only are we blessed to have major federal agencies, many of which you know, FDA, USDA, NOAA, the largest, but also ESSEC is the upper right is the university's Earth Science and Climate Institute, that is a university division on University Research Court. The National Foreign Language Center is in one of the St. John's Properties buildings. So is the START Center, which is a facility that studies hate bias and terrorism with a lot of federal funding, and also our Applied Research Laboratory for Intelligence Security. So we've already placed divisions and offices here. As Carlo mentioned, we will not be putting anything here that deals with undergraduates with class changes, but to the extent that we can drive our research enterprise and effectively locate more divisions along the Purple Line corridor and folks can get back and forth, we think that's really powerful. We'll go to the next slide, if you will, and I think that might be this. And this is something we're really proud of. You know, when I started about 8 years ago, it was pretty hard to find, and this is a team effort. I realize as I said that, it seemed like this is all of us together, but it was really hard to find any meaningful private sector jobs that had really not only spun out of the university, but had stayed to create meaningful jobs. These logos represent a little over 3,000 private sector jobs that are in the Discovery District. And whether it's IonQ, the leader in quantum computing, or some of the ones I mentioned, Airgility, Visisonics is also a spin out of the university. You got cybersecurity companies, drone companies, Adobe and Capital One have national Fortune 500 companies with software research labs. So, and we're really just getting started. And so I think that's probably the last slide, although there may be a quote from our president, as there should be, because it's really his vision that we're executing every day, and he inspires us and makes us work really hard, as he should, to deliver this vision, and we're very excited to be doing it. So let me just, as I wrap up and turn it back to Carlo, I wanted to thank you for your partnership in the Rhizone incentives, and just let you know that you know, I'm looking forward to working even in deeper collaboration with everyone on this call, and count us as a partner as you see priorities of the town of Riverdale Park that you want us to help work on. I mean, we are celebrating and promoting and trying to connect better, but there's a lot more we can do. And I'm sure with more dialogue, we can continue to execute. So thank you, Carlo.
Yeah, I just want to add my thanks. As you can tell, there's a lot of enthusiasm here. And Ken and I and Ed and Danielle now are very, very fortunate to be doing the work that we're doing. And we really appreciate our partnership with Riverdale Park. And we've done a lot, and we feel like we've got a lot more that we can do together. So at this point, we'd be happy to address any questions or take any feedback you might have.
Thank you for that fantastic presentation. There's a lot of information in there. Fortunately, not too much of it was a surprise to me. I'd heard rumors of the ACP transfer, and so when I got more confirmed rumors, then it was good that I had heard about that and many other things. I'm going to open it up first to members of the council who might have questions for you. I have a few questions or comments. Councilmember Smith, you had your hand up first, so jump in.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all for being here. This was a very informative presentation, and I appreciate it. Just a couple clarifying questions. I'm curious, what is the amount of, or ballpark vacant, or in terms of what exists, or as things are getting built unspoken for square footage that the university has right now?
I'm going to turn it over to Ken. He's probably got the closest info on that.
Yeah, if you're talking about in the Discovery District, in some of the
Broadly, just the university itself.
Well, the university doesn't have any vacancies in its buildings. I mean, they're bursting at the seams. So, I mean, Carlo can jump in. When it comes to the buildings with our private sector partners, one of the frustrations, candidly, we have is that we are 100% leased in the product, like the St. John's Properties product, with a list of companies that want to be in that kind of space. They make and build stuff. The vacancies in the Corporate Office Properties Trust portfolio, 25,000 square feet is vacant in the newest building. So one floor of that building that you see Cyberry on in 4600 River Road. And then just a slight amount of vacancy in the two other buildings that COPT has on University Research Court, probably less than 15,000 combined in those two buildings. And then the building that Douglas Development owns that has Raytheon at the top of it on River Tech Court, that has, probably about 40,000 square feet available, but that's a little deceptive in that the Purple Line team took pretty much the whole first floor. And so as that wraps up, there'll be some more vacancy there. And I don't know if your question gets to this, but we're seeing a little bit of softness in the typical office market in the sort of work from home as people are sort of figuring out what the new reality is. Where we're seeing significant demand is companies that make stuff, because they still need to physically be there. And so we're trying to look at maybe even retrofitting some buildings that could handle more lab spaces, even in multi-story building. I don't mean to go on too long, so I'll just end there, but happy to talk to you more offline if you have further questions or more detail that you're looking for.
Sure. And does that include both the American Physics Center building that you mentioned and any sort of buildings that you have in progress of being built that aren't open yet?
No, well, no. We basically know what is going to go into any new building that we're involved in. The ACP building, the university has a lot of has a lot of potential users, either users that are squeezed into a space that is too small on main campus. So for example, if you don't need to be dealing with undergraduate students on a regular basis, there's the possibility to be moved. So that they're looking at those. So we'll fill the remaining 70,000 square feet in the ACP building. I will say that when we're looking at the buildings next to the hotel, for example, with our partners at Brandywine, we're out there working to lease, to market space to private sector companies. And once we hit a certain threshold, then we'll break ground. So we're making progress there, but it's a work in progress.
Outstanding. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So roughly right now, you're looking at where, conservatively around 70,000 square feet, give or take.
I would say yes, between the COPT and the Riverdale, the River Tech building. Yeah, about that.
Yeah, I don't mean to I'm not going to hold you.
Yeah. About that amount. And I would keep ACP separate because we're going to fill that with university uses as opposed to recruiting private sector companies or agencies into those.
Got you. And then just a curiosity that I've had for a little bit now. Do you know, and you might not, and that's fine, but how much of the collectively, whether it's UMD, Terrapin Development, the various university associated entities are located on the land that used to be part of the Calvert Plantation, which of course we have the original mansion and museum here in our town.
I don't know that the University of Maryland land that started back when it was the Maryland Agricultural College was a gift from the Calvert family, but I don't know what part of that land, was actually just land holdings or actually
Right.
active farm.
Gotcha. Okay. I think we're back to the term Greater College Park. Where does that term come from? What's the origin of that?
So
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Carl.
yeah, I could jump in. It's probably about 10 years old. For many years, and I should mention my background. I was an undergraduate student starting about 45 years ago, and I've been on the university staff for the last 35. And for many, many decades, the university and the proximate city, College Park, were more traditional town gown friction. The university ended at Baltimore Avenue. There wasn't a lot of interaction. And about 10 or so years ago, there was really a concerted effort kind of connected to supporting the Purple Line's alignment through the campus, but also sort of the realization that for the university to continue to be successful, the surrounding community was a place that we needed to be a good partner in, and together we could do more to attract faculty and staff and students to make a great connected space. And we just so happen to have, the College Park obviously is the town that is most proximate, but we didn't want to limit our interest and our effort just on the municipality of College Park. There's Riverdale Park, of course, and University Park and Berwyn Heights in particular. I mentioned the catchment area for the College Park Academy that draws from all those municipalities and others. So the idea of Greater College Park was a little bit of a play on words to make for a greater College Park, but also to think about a greater area than just the municipality. So that's where the sort of the marketing idea came about. And when you look at, you'll see some maps that sort of try and depict that. Again, these aren't formal maps with, meets and bounds, but just a notion of what we try to include in Greater College Park. And Riverdale Park, parts of Riverdale Park are certainly an important part in our mind of a successful university environment. And particularly, we've been focusing a lot on the creative and the research and the innovation. And I can remember, some years ago, Mayor Thompson, we were looking at the St. John properties and the Flex R&D spaces. He made a statement that I think resonated very strongly with me and with Ed, and it's carried forward ever since, about Riverdale Park being a place where things were made. We make stuff here. We have a history of making stuff. So Greater College Park, that framing is meant to include all of the surrounding areas that are near the university.
Awesome. It's good to know that our neighbors in the greater Riverdale Park area are keeping an eye on us here. Appreciate that. You mentioned the catchment area for College Park Academy. I'm not familiar with that term. What is that?
Yeah. So College Park Academy is a public charter school. All of the students are from Prince George's County, and it's on a lottery system. There is a 35% of the seats in the school are reserved for first choice from families that are in the elementary school boundaries that are the 6 closest elementary schools. I don't have the list, the 6 at the tip of my tongue the way I did a few years ago when we created this, but it includes elementary schools and maybe this is where Danielle can help me out.
Berwyn Heights, Cherokee Lane, Hollywood, Paintbrush, Riverdale, and University Park.
There you go. There you go. And so the preference is for new families, 35% from there. And if you already have a child in College Park Academy, sibling draws take priority over everything else.
So that's 35% within the catchment area. So obviously not going to be an even round number, but somewhere around 1/6 of 35% would be folks.
So we have just under 700 students in middle school and high school. So 35% of that is, 200 students more or less. And because of the sibling pool, the actual numbers in terms of enrollment is probably over 40%. The county runs the lottery system and I sit on the College Park Academy board as well. So the actual enrollment, including the siblings that are pulled in, I could get you an exact numbers, but it's over 40%.
Sure, and that's 40%
of the 700.
those 6 schools. Okay.
Yeah. No. Let me rephrase it. So 40% of the students in the school, their address is in one of those 6 elementary school boundaries.
Gotcha. And then when you said public charter school, what does that mean exactly?
It's a charter school, but it is funded from Prince George's County Public School System.
Oh, okay.
And
So it takes money, the public school system provides funds from that, and that fund
they do, and
would otherwise go to other schools, or where does that come from?
So the it's a per pupil allocation, and out of that we pay for facilities and faculty and staff. Faculty and staff are Prince George's County employees, so principals, teachers.
Gotcha.
Staff,
You pay for the facilities?
Yeah, we do. We entered into a ground lease. And now at that time, College Park Academy was in its infancy. We just celebrated our 10th year. So the university was the backstop for the 15-year lease with St. John Properties, but the school pays, they lease that roughly 55,000 square foot building there in Riverdale Park.
Okay. So maybe I'm missing something. So my son, I have an 8-year-old son, when he gets 6th grade age, if I wanted to enroll him in College Park Academy, could I go as a resident of Riverdale Park to the office there and enroll him in the school? And he gets, today was his first day of school actually back. So, yeah, if this were a few years from now, God help us, could we just go enroll him in College Park Academy and he could go there?
The enrollment is through Prince George's County school system, and there are some other schools. So folks who want to be considered for schools other than their boundary school fill out an application process. And I think we've done the odds of getting in if you're in one of the boundary schools are quite high. I don't have those numbers right at my fingertips, but there are, and I see Danielle is her screen's on. So maybe Danielle, I know, is the proud parent of.
So I couldn't just walk into he would have to go, and with the catchment area preference, but
yeah,
a student would have to win the lottery to be able to be in that.
Yeah, but the odds are good. So
that's what the lottery says too. Okay, so it is not open universal. It doesn't have universal acceptance for Riverdale Park students, but you guys are taking that per pupil funding from the traditional public schools?
The funding for the school is from Prince George's County School System.
And it's based on a per pupil funding formula.
It's a per pupil funding allocation. And it does address some of the school shortage. When we started the school, there was actually the demand particularly in the North County was higher than the school facilities were able to accommodate at that time. So it's and again, it's it's all of the faculty and staff are Prince George's County employees.
And who elects the board of College Park Academy?
The board is, the board is, the university and the city of College Park actually initiated it. And it's a board that elects new members. So I serve on the board. I think there's 17 or 18 of us altogether.
So the board elects the board members?
Mhm.
Okay, so members of the community or parents or whatnot, there's not a, you know, in a public school district, you have a democratically elected school board that provides oversight for the school. We don't have that when it comes to College Park.
There's representation on the board from parent and but it's selected by the board itself.
Okay, this might not be a thing that I'm gonna get, but if we don't have public oversight and no one, if you're a part of the public, you can't just enroll your student. I don't understand how that's a public school. But maybe that's something we can clarify later. And then just lastly,
If I could just jump in, you can think of it, there's within the public school systems, there are different sort of programs. So if you're in a, you know, an art or, you know, there are, if you want to do sort of Chinese immersion within other public schools, you can apply for a specialty. So you can, that's the best analogy to draw.
okay. So in those schools, the student has to still goes into a lottery. That's how that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. Depending on.
If you live across the street from the school, you have, for one of those schools you're talking about, the actual traditional public schools. If you live across the street from that school, you have to enter a lottery to go into that school.
A lottery and or an application process. Roosevelt High School is an example of a school that has a magnet program that you have to apply for and be selected in. College Park Academy does not have a test-in requirement. It is just done on a lottery system.
Right, so the kids have to win the lottery to get in there. Okay. Then just the last question with Terrapin Development Company and the developments that you guys work on.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah.
You've been going for about 12 or 15 minutes. Can we let Councilmember Yang has been very patient?
I appreciate that, and I apologize to my colleague. This is, I swear, my last question. Do you guys have a policy of labor neutrality with the Terrapin Development Company?
You want to answer that, Ken?
Go ahead, Carl. Oh, do
I'm
you want?
not sure what you mean by labor
I was
neutrality.
going to ask for an explanation.
Card check. If
Card check?
if the companies, do you require construction, other vendors that you work with, the companies that do the work, to adopt neutrality for union organization? If that's not something
Yeah, I'm going to
that's
defer to
fine.
Carlo because he runs all of the procurement for the university. I am very familiar with most of these terms, and we can talk offline if you'd like, but
That's good. We can figure it later. I don't want to take up silly more time for my
yeah.
colleagues here. I appreciate your patience and for walking me through some of those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Yang, thank you for your patience. Go ahead.
I appreciate the presentation and would love to get a copy of this whenever, if at all possible, to share. I'm Ward 4 sort of is the top part of Riverdale Park, so Discovery District falls into that. And so one of the things that I'm obviously interested in is just is obviously the plans and developments for the area. I'm a little confused about, like the elevation landing, how much of it is like residential versus like, actually research and that line that's being blared and sort of what the vision is. So we can love to sort of maybe connect with some of you all offline and kind of get a vision of that. But really, I think that slide with all the different partnerships that were there, I think was fantastic. One of the challenges that I know when I talk to folks in my own ward is that the Discovery District very much at the moment now is just seen as buildings with some construction. A purple line is going through and it's very much I'm not really sure what that is. And so how do we engage the community? Because the fear is that it becomes just a stop along the purple line, that people just kind of pass through it and it's not necessarily woven into the fabric of it. So Really appreciate the presentation. I'm actively thinking about, are there other ways that we can sort of have these conversations so that it becomes more tangible, as well as something that folks feel like they can have input into, maybe even try to like, hey, these are the type of things that would be great in our community, and actually feel a part of it. I'm personally not a fan of the Greater College Park term. If it was Greater University of Maryland, I kind of understand that we all sort of fall in that umbrella. But and the reason why I'm not a fan of it is I think it's sort of the notion of there's this large entity that is sort of encroaching on our small town, and our identity is not necessarily being a part of it or thought of actively. And so is there ways that we can sort of bridge those gaps and make this more than just large scale development that's happening around us with very little input and lack of consideration? And so I don't believe that's the case. I was appreciative hearing this presentation, and I think let's think about ways that we can take these presentations out of back rooms and sort of make them, public facing, and sort of invite folks to just get awareness of it, right? And I think that'll be a win for everybody involved. But I appreciate the presentation.
Yeah, and can I just respond? Thank you very much for your points. And obviously, that's why we requested to be here tonight, to make sure we are engaging in a stronger dialogue. So I really welcome your comments and welcome, continuing the dialogue. And I will tell you that we haven't made official decisions, we haven't announced, but we're contemplating a much more intentional Discovery District kind of partnership entity that would drive much more events, accessibility, making it feel like it's not just a collection of buildings, because I could not agree with you more. I mean, where is the heart and soul? Where is the place that there's going to be a festival or something going on outside that feels like it's not just a bunch of buildings that maybe have a sign or a logo, maybe don't. And so we're really working in that direction. And I'd love your feedback and input as we do that, to say, what are you and your neighbors, what are you looking for? What can we be doing more of? So thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional council questions for on this presentation? Any public comments or public questions about the presentation?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you very much for this presentation. As Mr. Ullman, I appreciate your reaching out a hand and saying that the town can count on you, and by that, not just yourself, but the university in the development of this, as being a partner in the development of this project. And by what we've seen tonight, looks very promising. My hope is that in being that partner, that what's going to be taken into serious and earnest consideration is the vision and commitment statements that we as a council have set forward for the town, and that the university would be willing to work with us in achieving that vision that we have and our commitment to it as it applies to the projects you have on the drawing boards now. Is that something that you would find that could be accomplished?
We'd be honored.
Okay. Because it's very important to us. We've there's numerous meetings over a fair amount of time between staff and council putting that together, and it's something that drives our decisions day in and day out, and on how we're pursuing things. And we're hoping that, as a partner that you would want to be with us here, that you would join us in that effort as well, as we're joining you in your efforts in this development.
It would be my honor, and I know Carlo gave a little bit of his background. In a previous life, I had the honor of serving on the county council in Howard County and then serving as county executive for 2 terms. And while we did not have municipalities in Howard County, I have a great affinity and admiration and appreciation for the work that you're doing, and really look forward to working in deeper collaboration. So look forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, are there additional council or public comments? Mr. Barron, go ahead.
Just thanks for the presentation. It was great. I was happy to see one of the guiding principles is people first mobility. I think being a resident in the area, one thing that strikes me is just going through the Discovery District, so much of the land is surface parking lots. Is there anything explicit in the plan to try to convert this to more walkable, transit-oriented development? I saw a number of the projects you highlighted with infill development are doing that, but I was wondering if is there a plan to convert a lot of the existing surface parking lots to buildings and other uses?
I'll jump in and say, yes, as you can see in the COP development master plan that was had the image of the light rail in front of it. That's an example of the transit-oriented development that we believe is, first off, it's appropriate, and it is in accordance with Prince George's County 2035 plan, if I've got my years right there. So, we are big fans of transit-oriented development, and with light rail right along River Road, as well as the metro station there, we think that area sets up very nicely. And I'm hoping that in time, and I think this happens with development, as uses get evolve, the pedestrian friendly, bike friendly, scooter friendly, complete streets become the norm rather than something that is hit and miss. So I think you can see with the I think all the images that you saw that were sort of proposed new developments are, I think, very pedestrian friendly and walkable and dynamic and lively. And I think you set a very good example with Riverdale Park Station as being one of those places that embodies, I think, the kind of rich, fully engaged environment that we aspire to have in lots of places.
If I could just add one comment, and totally agree with Carlo, where we have new opportunities like the area that we're referring to as Aviation Landing, we're all in with mixed use, minimizing the amount of parking. In fact, we're having a really robust conversation with the county about what is the minimum amount of parking that will let us have, because frankly, if we're not going to be able to minimize auto use at Aviation Landing at the intersection of the Metro and the Purple Line with bike trails, with Mark Station, where else are we? And so we're really looking at creative solutions. I would say a couple things that are really important to us. We have got to drive home the culture of Purple Line ridership. And so when Ed mentioned the fare-free zone, we need to make sure folks use the Purple Line because we're really thinking, as we're talking about new developments and as we're luring outside partners, there is still a mentality. If I'm bringing my company to Discovery District, I need 3 per thousand, I need 4 per thousand parking spaces because they're seeing it as suburban. And we're saying, no, 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 no. There's the metro, there's great bike trails. You can bike up from Navy Yard on the northwest, on the northwest branch. You can, all those things. The Purple Line's coming. But that's why we've got to continue this culture so that we can demonstrate that you don't need these surface parking lots. Now, some of those parking lots are owned by the federal government, like next to USDA, et cetera. But the more we can convince people that look at those empty parking lots, you don't need them, the more we can redevelop them into more productive uses. So it's an ongoing effort, and it's really, really important to us. Plus, it's expensive to build a lot of parking. So we don't want parking for a lot of reasons, but we don't want to handicap ourselves when we're trying to recruit prospects either. So it's a fine line.
Thank you.
I want to mention, although members of the council don't see me often, if at all, Mayor Thompson and Mr. Shelton, unfortunately, have the opportunity to meet not just with the university, but with members of the city College Park government and other local property owners. So representatives from Riverdale Park Station, representatives from COPT, oftentimes members of the Castle family, to meet and talk about common goals and interests in the Discovery District. So I throw that out there in case anyone on this call has follow-up matters to Mayor Thompson. I'm looking at you to share them, and we can put those on the agenda and share and have the partnership opportunities that are in our mutual best interest.
Ed, I may even invite some of the council members who overlap the Discovery District to come to the meetings. If that would be.
I think there's a lot happening there. So I think it's
Sure.
exciting and it's a great opportunity.
Sure. Additional questions from anybody? Ms. Batto.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. I appreciate you engaging with us and keeping us informed, and I appreciate Dan's comment and Mr. Nyang's comments as well. Mine is just one specific question about your acquisition of the ACP. There's a lot of trees and this beautiful forest around there. Are there any plans for development of that, or are we gonna? I really enjoy walking through that area.
No.
That's excellent. That was one of my first thoughts, but I look forward to the community oriented engagement, and I welcome all of the planning, but I appreciate that we still can keep some of our trees as it keeps coming. So thank you.
Well, and I real quick, I did mention that there was a solicitation out there, and frankly, there were images that showed the site clear cut and lots of multifamily, and not the drive. One of the reasons why we thought it was so important is to preserve that building. That doesn't mean that the university won't have, something in the future that we might like to do, but we bought this to preserve the site and activate it, and no plans whatsoever to develop the rest of it at this time.
I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, additional questions from anyone?
Yes.
Councilmember Kalan, go ahead.
I don't have question, but I have a concern about something. I thank them for their presentation. It's well understood, but I'm concerned about this Purple Line construction workers. They left many potholes, damaging our cars. When they open some holes, they don't cover it. They leave it like that. In the night when you're driving, sometimes you go into that potholes. Yeah, sometimes you fire your tire. It happened to me twice on Riverdale Road. Yes, so how are they going to address this one?
So, Councilmember Callan, I believe that the university and the Purple Line Transit Partners, as you know, the town talks to them, and the university talks to them also, but they are independent organizations, and I will be happy to reach out as part of my duties to the Purple Line and ask them to improve this situation for you.
Okay, that's my concern.
Okay. Mr. Town Manager, go ahead.
Yes, I'll be very brief. Ed, it's good to see you again. And I want to thank everyone for the presentation. I will make sure that we send to you the copies of the vision and commitment statements that Councilmember Lingua spoke of, because the values of the town really come through in those. And any development that's occurring in our town, whether by you or private entities, it's nice when it aligns with the values of the town. Congratulations on your recent acquisition. But there's always one concern that I have as someone who has to put together a balanced budget. And the more property that the university just acquires in the university's name for a university purpose, that doesn't necessarily equate to property tax for the town, as opposed to the development partnership with COPT. So that's just something that for the long-term sustainability of the town and our ability to continue to provide quality services, it's something that we have to be aware of and perhaps engage in some constructive dialogue about.
I expected you to say just that, and let's have constructive dialogue. Just for the record, John, as you know, ACP is and has been a tax-exempt educational organization, so the city's budget's not going to see the same impact. And I remember when this happened, when GSA exercised its option to buy the USDA building, so you're not going to have that delta. I do understand. Let's have a conversation, because I expected to have this conversation with you. So
very good, and thanks, Ed.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? So a lot of my questions already got asked by somebody else, so that's always good. I just don't want to touch on the Discovery District and the development plans there a little bit. And well, I'll start off by as other people have, thanking you for the presentation and for particularly the vision that that you have of mixed-use, vibrant neighborhoods, of not just as it was described in a previous meeting many years ago, a soulless office park, and getting a little bit of soul in there, getting restaurants, getting things like that. So that comment was in a Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission sponsored workshop on the Transit District. Let's see, College Park, Riverdale Park Transit District Overlay Zone. And I was just curious as to how the university is interacting with that document and plans for the Discovery District. And there's a particular issue that I just want to touch on, and that is it's really essential to have destinations that don't just close at 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And we would really like to see that as part of the development plans and part of the infill plans for what happens there. And that was part of the part of that overlay zone, was to try to get more of that. So I will quit asking my question and let you answer it.
I'll start, and then I'll maybe ask Ed to weigh in with specifics about the county plan and review process. But I think as you saw in the aviation landing concept, residential is an important part of that proposed development. I think everybody is well aware that Gilbane has a residential project, a substantial one, that is anchoring one end of River Road. And so, in addition to more activity there in our in the flex R&D spaces and our office uses, and they are typically workday, but some of that extends beyond. But we think that having some amount of residential, particularly around mass transit, will bring life and activity beyond the normal workday. And Ed may say a little bit more about this, but the most of the activity, the development activity that we've discussed, will go through some sort of county review process. And the aviation landing, for example, is one that will certainly go through that process. The COP projects that we mentioned through a traditional development review process. But Ed can probably speak some more to the specifics of our the role that 2035 plan and shaping development proposals.
Yeah, I'm actually not going to get more specific, Carlo. I'm going to go very general. Alan, we want to see the same thing that you want to see there. We want to see it because it's the right thing to do there, but because the mix of uses, that sort of having that life after 5 o'clock, the activity, it's symbiotic. So that is what will attract office tenants, more office tenants. Carlo hit at, we've got Gilbane is building the Outworth there. That's going to bring that first residential development there. I think that will make a difference in bringing street activity. It's a key component of the aviation landing project over closer to the metro station. But it's really what I think we collectively want to see. What you just identified as your vision is our vision. And that's John said he's going to send us your mission and vision statement, and I'm thinking to myself, I would bet a decent amount of money that when we take a look at it, it's just going to match probably what we're working on at the university. So,
Hey, Ed, I already committed to it, and I didn't even see it yet. So that's how.
It is. We don't want, because we want offices to locate there. We want so when we're attracting, say, university users, and we go over there and show them what it looks like, we want them to see the same level of dynamism and vitality that you want to see there, because otherwise it won't work. I'm reminded, though, because I've been inside the American Center for Physics building a lot recently, and in their cafeteria, they have photographs of the construction of the building. And the photographs are interesting because they show in the background nothing. So let's not lose sight too quickly over the fact that what we're looking at is this sort of dynamic, vibrant, mixed use area was 25 years ago zoned for and used as an industrial zone. Sure. So we're making progress. These things take time and effort and cooperation, but we're getting there, and we're going to get there faster working together with you all and your team.
And I saw that you shared our vision, and I just want to say that, in my experience over more than 20 years now of working to implement such a vision in the town, that you have to apply that vision at each step of the way. Each time you have a decision to make, then you think about the vision and you say, what is the best way to move us forward towards that vision? So just a reminder.
And always, and keep reminding every chance you get.
Oh, believe me, I will. And you know that.
You will. And I appreciate it. And I want you to. So thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments from anyone? Because the night is getting old. So we have a lot of agenda items ahead of us. So thank you again for the presentation. Very much appreciated. And let's keep discussing. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And feel free to share the presentation widely. There's a question about that. You've got it. So please share it. And we look forward to future dialogue.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot to all of you.
Thank you all. Good night.
So that was presentation number 1 and presentation number 2 is from Riverdale Park's very own Sustainability Committee and the Tree Subcommittee. And these is a briefing on the Tree Summit results. And I believe Alex Hurdle that you were running the presentation. Is that correct?
I am, yes. Thank you, Mayor. And good evening to everyone. My name is Alex Hurdle. I'm a member of the Sustainability Committee for the town, also known as the Green Team. And I'm also the chair for the Tree Subcommittee, if you knew or did not know that that existed. And that's what we're here about for this segment of the this meeting tonight is trees. I just want to thank very briefly Sarah Wayland, Laura Katz, Sarah Bato, and others like Billy Fribelli and Dan Baypren, excuse me, and many others that were part of this this journey that we're taking in finding out what our residents really care about in terms of trees and where we're going with this. So as you all should know, last year on September 10th, 2022, we had a Riverdale Park Tree Summit. Next slide, please. So why are we here this evening? Well, the town manager requested input from the town residents regarding its goals for the future of trees in the town. So what are the visions and the challenges for trees in Riverdale Park? The Sustainability Committee organized a tree summit to gather this information. And as I mentioned, it was completed last September. And here we are almost a year later. And I won't get into the reasons why it took about a year to communicate all these things. But here we are. And we do want to communicate the outcome of the tree summit and provide recommendations to the council related to the themes expressed by the participants. Next slide, please. So I want to first start out with a quote from Ned Tillman, who wrote the book of The Chesapeake Watershed, A Sense of Place and a Call to Action. He writes that especially if our population continues to grow, we will need even more trees to filter our air and water and provide habitat for many species beneficial to the life here on Earth. Life would be quite different, possibly even impossible without trees. And I also want to give a quote that I'm going to refer to at the end of the presentation that goes something like this. If you can't breathe, nothing else matters. I just want that to sink in for a second. Next slide, please. So many of us know the benefits of trees and tree cover, also known as tree canopy. I'm just going to review these very quickly. Trees filter out air pollution. They provide stormwater runoff value, and they sequester carbon. And these, just for Prince George's County alone, account for tens of millions of dollars in benefits that trees provide without even charging us a bill. Now, as long as we maintain them, keep planting them and keep them happy, they keep doing their job at tens of millions of dollars within the county. We don't know what it is specifically for our town, but it's a lot of money. Next slide, please. Trees are important to the town. And as you know, they're a part of our character of our town. In the last presentation, we talked about bringing companies to this area. Well, if they're eating at 250 barbecue, or if they're walking around town, they're not seeing a lot of trees, or they can't eat at 250 under a tree shade, are they going to come to this town? I mean, trees are part of our character. They improve air quality, water quality, they help manage stormwater management, and they mitigate the effects of climate change. We all know what's been going on in Hawaii, north of Quebec in Canada, a few years ago in Australia. We have a lot of issues with climate change, droughts, we have floods. Trees help mitigate these things. And the Sustainability Committee's goals tonight are to raise awareness about the impact of losing the access to natural environment and to help the town understand and meet its regional responsibility. It's not up to the county, it's not up to the state to ensure that we have enough trees in our town. It's on our doorstep. It's our responsibility. Next slide, please. So this is just one caption from the tree summit. It was called Let's Talk Trees. And next slide, please. We had, next slide, please. Highlights were that we had 4 main presenters, Dr. Richard Olson, who's the director of the U.S. National Arboretum, Carol Barth, which was not able to present, but I presented for her. She has some great slides on data and information from Prince George's County regarding trees. We had a local city representative, Mary Lee Howitt, from the chair of the tree committee of that city, present on what they do to protect trees. And we had our own Ivy Lewis from Public Projects and Services talk about trees within our town. Dr. Richard Olson, one of the great comments that he made in his presentation was, in the 21st century, we're asking our trees to do more and more. And that's absolutely, it's an accurate statement. We're asking trees to mitigate climate change, to protect us from high temperatures, from drought, from flooding, and carbon sequestration. Trees are also limited oftentimes when we enclose their root system in impervious surface like asphalt streets and sidewalks. Next slide, please. So this is a very, very important diagram here. If you take a look at it, a lot of you probably may have think, well, they've been doing a lot of tree planting in Prince George's County. We have a great Department of the Environment director, as well as Public Works. We should be gaining canopy and trees within the county, right? Well, actually, we're not. If you take a look at the data between 2014 and 2018, our tree canopy in Prince George's County decreased by 1.2%. We lost over 5,500 acres of trees out of a total of 309,120. If you look at the diagram, the areas with a dark brown was 1 or more acres of tree loss in that little hexagon. The areas of lighter brown were less than equal to or less than 1 acre of net loss. And if you see any green, which you do not, that was tree gain in that specific area. So we are losing trees and tree canopy throughout the county, including in our town. Next slide, please. At this rate, at the rate that we're going from 2040 to 2018, by 2050, the town will lose over 13% of its tree canopy. And it will go from 52% tree canopy down to 39%, a great loss. That's many square miles of tree canopy that will be lost if we continue the path that we're going on. Next slide, please. So one of the county's goals, and this was created through the Climate Action Plan Committee that created a number of recommendations for the county council and the county executive to consider, is a no net loss of trees. So the goal of the Climate Action Plan is to maintain 52% tree canopy by 2030, and by 2050, raise that tree canopy to 55%. And I believe that the town should do the same. We should not have a goal of just maintaining our tree canopy. We should have a goal of increasing it. Next slide, please. Other municipalities have very actively protected and are protecting their tree canopies. Many municipalities around us, College Park, Greenbelt, Berwyn Heights, the city of Mount Rainier, Tacoma Park, many others have tree commissions. They have a group of public citizens that live in that municipality, and they make decisions about the trees, which ones to protect, which ones will be allowed to be cut down. All these municipalities have education, public outreach components also. They also have legislation that protects trees, and specifically they limit removal and they govern maintenance of the tree, and there are enforcement mechanisms in place to do such. There are also heritage tree programs. Mary Lee told us about the one in the city of Mount Rainier, and much more. Next slide, please. So our summit goal was to solicit public input, And our two main questions were, what is your vision for the future of trees in Riverdale Park? And what concerns do you have regarding trees in our town? Next slide, please. So the method we did this was we had registration for the Tree Summit. We had 65 respondents, both from Riverdale Park and outside of Riverdale Park. We had 92 comments regarding our Tree Summit, 47 vision statements, 54 concerns. And in the breakout sessions, which were only for town residents, we had 20 participants in that. We had 90 comments that included 61 visions of how these residents would like to see our tree canopy and 29 concerns. Next slide, please. Some of the feedback, and this is hard to read, but I just want to go down very quickly. The feedback themes were protect tree canopy, increase the tree canopy, maintenance of trees, planning for future trees in our town, public-private partnerships, education, town resources, legislation, communication accessibility, and organic waste management. And I want to tell you about the four most important ones. The next screen, please. The top four, which was 64% of our output, was protect tree canopy, increase our tree canopy, maintenance, and planning. And we would like to focus on those moving forward. Next slide, please. So protecting tree canopy, I'm not going to read all this, but our vision is to preserve healthy trees that we have. And some of the concerns were trimming and removal by Pepco, dead trees not being replaced, maintaining our existing trees such as watering, etc., and the Bradford pear, trimming and structural stability. Some of the concerns were cutting down existing trees that were healthy, vines and invasive species like bamboo and kudzu, Pepco trimming again, and private citizens and developers removing trees. Next slide. For the increasing tree canopy, again, some of the visions included more diversity within trees, the taller trees over 20 feet, covering sidewalks, and green buffers between street trees and sidewalks. And some of the concerns were more trees along the major roadways near transit lines and parks. The biggest concern for private residents were more native trees planted in yards. And next slide. For planning, again, the vision was the town should be planning, which the town should plan, which would include the diversity of trees, right tree, right place, maintenance, protection, and replacement. Some of the concerns included wrong trees in the wrong place, inappropriate tree buffers, lack of vision, and the biggest concern for private properties was property owners that do not coordinate with the town. And next slide. And for maintenance, the vision included education, adopt a tree programs, controlling invasive vines. Some of the concerns included, again, wrong tree, wrong place, pruning around power lines, seems to be a theme, protecting from deer and pests. And some of the biggest concerns for private property included, don't cut your trees down in the yards, and how to care and maintain trees, another education component that we can look at. Next slide. So what is the town already doing? I'm just going to very briefly go over these slides because many of you probably know what we're doing. Next slide, please. So the budget included $84,000 for maintenance of public trees, $15,000 for tree installation in public places, and $3,000 for education and training of staff. And kudos to the council and mayor for putting those items into the budget. Next slide. This is just, I think, a piece of the budget which included trees planted for every one removed. And there's some of the numbers from 22, 23, and 24 projected. Those numbers seems kind of low, but we won't get into those details tonight. Next slide. And this was just a slide of the street tree inventory and management plan that we currently have. That actually, I'm sorry, it's a park and planning project that is in progress. More on that in a little bit. Next slide, please. So the urban tree grant, which the town recently got, included over a almost a $42,000 award amount for the planting of 150 trees. And then it includes expanding the town's tree canopy, greening Riverdale Park Municipal Center, removing stumps and increasing the number of trees planted at these locations, and engaging volunteers. Okay, good for the town. We need more volunteers for trees. Next slide, please. We've made partnerships with the Central Kenilworth Avenue Revitalization Community Development Corporation. As many of you know, residents can get free trees planted in their yards from this organization. They have done a great job and have partnered with us during our tree summit and at other times. There's some other partners that we've also made, but again, we can talk about those later. Next slide, please. So this is important. What is the town's next actions? Well, we'd like to increase tree canopy, enhance maintenance and protection of healthy, mature trees, increase the awareness and educate about trees, and as appropriate, address the above issues. Through enacting legislation, review and revise enforcement policies and processes, and create a strategic plan. Next slide. So the appendices, these are resources that we currently have. We all know the challenges with staff, and I know staff has oftentimes been overworked, and sometimes we don't have the expertise within, not on the green team, not in our staff, to create a sustainability plan or a long-term management plan for our trees. So if you can move forward with the appendices, please. We have resources available. There's companies called Plan IT Geo, which provide urban forestry consulting to create municipal tree canopy plans. There's the Chesapeake Conservancy, which is a local nonprofit, which works with municipalities and the county in terms of tree data collection, interpretation, and planning. The University of Maryland has their Environmental Finance Center, and Mike Honeycake has been an excellent resource for us in terms of stormwater and other concerns that we've had for our natural environment. And locally, we have the Neighborhood Design Center for community landscape design. So the resources are there, we just need to utilize them. And one thing that I would like to say, I know Mayor Thompson, you've been very good at collaborating with other municipalities, and sometimes just doing it alone is just a very high hurdle. So we know that other municipalities have created organizations like the Four Cities and the Port Towns Coalition. We would love to see Riverdale Park collaborate with 4 or 5 other small towns in the area that are looking to do the same thing to increase tree canopy and protect the trees that they have. So if there's any way that we can group up with other municipalities to do this, there's power in numbers, and we highly recommend and urge that the council and mayor and staff do this. Next slide, please. These are local resources for free trees. As you may know, there's several organizations that will plant trees in your yard. Again, Kenilworth Avenue Revitalization Community Development Corporation, Global Health and Education Projects, and several others like the Chesapeake Bay Trust. Next slide. So there are federal programs. We've talked about the concern with Pepco trimming trees because of the power lines and other lines. There are actually federal programs out there that will help towns and municipalities bury utility lines. I know this is a very, very high climb, and it's going to be a multi-decade process. But if we could get a number of our lines underneath the ground, that gives us more opportunities to be able to grow trees and not have continual trimming by the power companies. The county has the rain check programs, and they also have legislation which they will be updating shortly for trees. But what I want to emphasize is Riverdale Park shouldn't have to kind of be following the town, the county or the state. We should really be out there creating our own path and looking forward to engaging in more tree canopy through our own means. And there are many models, like I said, through municipalities in Prince George's County. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can just take legislation from other municipalities, collaborate, and add that into our own town code. An additional, there's money from the K-Fritz property when we had Riverdale Station built. There was all kind of a wonder when we were talking about this. There should be $100,000 for tree mitigation funds that we're not sure where that is. Hopefully we can find that and utilize that for additional tree canopy. Next slide. Okay, so yeah, I think this is about the end of the presentation, but we talked about the quote, "If you can't breathe, nothing else matters." And what I want to tell you just very quickly is a little story. This summer, one of the days that we were having a lot of air quality concerns because of the fires from up north, my daughter, 10-year-old daughter, and I were walking to the Riverdale Park Farmers Market on a Thursday afternoon. We didn't bring our masks. I don't know why. Maybe we didn't have any or we just didn't think about it. We were walking up a hill and my daughter was having trouble breathing. And she looked at me and she said, "Dad, I can hardly breathe." And I looked at her and it took me back thinking, if we can't breathe, nothing else matters. And unfortunately, I believe that our summers from here on end is going to be filled with more and more pollution days that we're going to need to use masks, and days that people are going to need to stay under their house simply because there's so much smoke in the air. Trees are not the magic bullet for this, but they are an integral part of mitigating climate change. And if we continue to increase our tree canopies, we can continue to have the benefits of trees and provide for mitigation within climate change. So I'm not only asking, I'm urging, begging, and pleading the county council to utilize our recommendations and to move forward with a larger tree canopy and tree preservation within the town of Riverdale Park. And with that, I will open it up to questions. And if Sarah, Laura, or Sarah B, or any of the other individuals that helped out with the Tree Summit have any questions or comments, you're more than welcome to present them now. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you to the other members of the Sustainability Committee Tree Subcommittee. And I will now open it up to questions or comments from council members. Council?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Councilmember Inyang.
I appreciate the presentation and one, the summit in general and sort of the work that goes into facilitating, sourcing, bringing those folks together. I'm upset I wasn't able to make it, but glad to hear some of the inputs from it. It's clear that tree canopy, sort of increasing the tree canopy, the importance of it is sort of like obviously one of the large priorities. And that slide that you had that showed all the different little hexagons within the county and how there's not a single area of growth. I am curious to sort of know about how many trees are we talking about in terms of like what's the difference between turning a dark orange to like a lighter brown versus a green? Is this like, 2 or 3 developments that happened that sort of took trees away that sort of, is a tipping point? Is this something where like, I think the scale in terms of how can we get that back is just a question I have. And then 2, I'm actually really curious about, would love to know more about the federal funding from FEMA in terms of like burying power lines. I know that is way more expensive than I initially thought. So opportunities to get funding for that, I think is something that we would love to make sure that we share that with the town staff and make sure everyone's aware of that and sort of pursue any type of grant funding for sure. And then lastly, You mentioned the Cafich property development and sort of the money that was set aside in lieu of trees. I would love to make sure that we investigate that and sort of get an understanding of what that means. Obviously where the funds are, but also as we think about other property development that is planned to be happening within the town and even obviously outside of it, thinking about that last presentation we just had, how can we make sure that that it's maybe not just, oh, we'll just write a check and that's it? Because in theory that might make sense, but I know it takes years for trees to sort of become fully matured. So at some point, we actually can't just sort of take that mitigation approach that way. So I'd love to know more about that as well. But thank you again for the presentation, and definitely look forward to working with you all on this.
Thank you, Councilmember Inyang. I believe the town manager Lustician is going to answer your question. I know the answer too, but he had his hand up, so I'll let him answer. Save my voice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In reference to the money that Cafritz had paid into the fund, that is allocated for the Adam and Emily Plummer Park. The plan is to buy large, as mature trees as possible to plant in that park. And so that's actively being worked on. And hopefully we'll see planting either this fall or in the spring. But there's going to be some soil replacement that needs to happen as well. So the trees have a better chance, because most of that soil is very dense clay. And that's in the approved fiscal 24 budget.
Thank you.
I'll just add to that keeping track of that money has been a personal goal and project of mine for many decades. So I always bring it up as often as I can and say, we're at that $100,000. And I will say that staff reached out to the county. There'd been a change of administration, of course, and was able to track down the emails to prove that they had promised us this money and get it into our hands. So many thanks to staff and to the many people who listened to me ask about this for better part of a decade. Are there additional council questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you. I just want to thank everybody involved with Tree Summit. It is not lost to me that this was not a small undertaking, and I definitely appreciate the effort that went into this and the effort that the Green Team continually puts into making our town a more livable, more sustainable place. Sorry if I missed this in the presentation, if it was there. Been a little bit distracted this evening, which I'll get into more in my report, but just wondering if there is a ballpark figure of the number of trees we would need to plant annually in our municipality to maintain the current canopy, or hopefully increase it, and if there's any legislation out there, and this might be something we need to follow up with offline, where we could sort of put in statutes the requirement for a certain canopy density for the town. Thank you.
Any idea of those numbers, Alex?
A lot. And I'm not being funny here. You all probably know, you see the number of trees that have gone down in the several storms that we've had this year. I live right off of Taylor Road, and I can count at least 8 Bradford pears that were taken down this summer simply because they were either diseased or they become so mature that they become dangerous with the breaking branches. So I don't have the specific numbers. I'm not sure if Ms. Ivy has those, but what I will say, and a point was made earlier, is if we're doing a 1-for-1, that's not feasible, because if you're taking a 60-year-old willow oak and you take that down because it was diseased because of very hot weather, and it has a 270 square foot canopy, and you put up one mature 8-foot white oak or a cherry tree or something like that that has maybe 5 or 6 square feet of canopy, that's not a replacement. So our recommendation, the Green Team, when we talked about this a number of times, We don't want to emulate what the county does, whether it's a 1-for-1 or 2-for-1, because it's not sustainable. We'd love to see a tree canopy replacement. So if you have a 250 square foot canopy of a tree that's taken down, you have to plant that number of trees that's going to equal 250 square foot as they are. So I know that's a high bar, but again, it's a lot of trees.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. And I hope that that is a bar we can work towards getting high enough to meet and exceed in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, Councilmember Smith.
Ms. Whalen?
I want to briefly mention the planning on the previous slide that the town has paid on Maryland National Municipal Parks and Planning Commission to do a tree inventory and then create a town tree maintenance plan for the town. Could we go back to that slide? Because I actually think it's worth looking at that in a little more detail than we were able to in the presentation. One more. Okay, so this is a project that will help the town determine how to keep the canopy, at least keep the canopy the way it is. The milestones you see here, that the planning board approval, blah, blah, blah. So they have completed a tree inventory. I believe they're in the process of reviewing that inventory with staff. And once they have that complete tree inventory, then they're going to do a conditions assessment and present that to the council. I guess it isn't happening because here it is the 28th and it's not happening. But by May of 2024, the idea is that they would have a final inventory and tree management plan. That's, I believe, just for street trees. And one of the things that I can't emphasize enough is that a lot of the tree loss happening is on private properties. So this will help the town with street tree inventory and management and give them some guidance. And so I just wanted to go into a little more detail in that just to answer your question a little more thoroughly.
Thank you, Ms. Whalen. Appreciate that. Are there additional council questions or comments for the presenters? Are there any questions or comments from members of the public on this presentation? Ms. Whalen?
So I guess one question I have is, we suggested in the last slide prior to the appendices. We had an ask, several asks for the council. And one question I have is, what can we do to make sure that these things, that the town starts, doing what they need to do? How can we as the trees subcommittee help the council, think about these things? I would love to move forward with these recommendations, and I'd like it to happen fast. My heart aches every time, like this afternoon, I hear somebody cutting a tree down and grinding it up, and we don't have anything we can do about it. So what can we do, like, moving forward?
Well, looking at the bullets on this slide, I always think about next actions as being a long and drawn out process that starts with budget. And so we have budget hearings, budget events that will start happening in December. And I would ask that members of the tree subcommittee show up for each one of those. So there'll be an initial meeting is usually sort of budget assumptions. So what are we going to do? Are we going to raise taxes? Are we going to keep tax rate flat? Are we going to change other just basic assumptions of the budget? And that will start in December. And then there will be many, many more meetings after that, and that will drive what we can do in the future. As you stated in reviewing the MNC PPC project, we are gathering data for creating a strategic plan. And then we'll have to find the funding in order to implement that. And I'm hoping that that the data that comes in can perhaps be enhanced. I know the county already has lots of tree data in place, but I would say that, you know, the immediate thing to do is to attend the budget hearings and advocate for the trees at each and every one of those. Ms. Otto, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to mention, first of all, I attended the tree summit. I'm not a member of the green team or the tree subcommittee, but really thanks to everybody who was involved in putting that together. I found it very useful, great information. I just want to mention one quick thing. Our neighbors in College Park and Calvert Hills in particular have been they've been training teams of people in early spring to do invasive vine removal. And it's been really quite effective. We certainly have areas here. I live in Riverdale Park Station in the townhomes. There are areas all over the town where we're seeing invasive vines really take over in some of the mature trees. That is something I realize there could be liability and other kinds of issues associated with this, but I just want to put it out both to the tree subcommittee and to the town that this is something, with the help of the experts that were doing this work in Calvert Hills, that we could start doing in February or March. The vines green up before the trees do. It's very easy then to recognize them. I just wanted to put that idea out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Otto. As my family knows, I will periodically go and cut rings of English ivy death around trees, and just take out 6 inches or a foot of all the way around the tree. Pretty sure the vines can't survive above that for very long. So that's an important feature. Councilmember Enyang, go ahead.
I think to Ms. Whalen's point about what can we do now, I do think that Betsy, I appreciate the idea, and I think would be great to sort of explore options that are outside of sort of like the large budget asks. Like Mr. Mayor, I completely agree. Like everything, it takes a budget sort of ship to be steered in a certain way to make substantial change. But, we also know that that's a multi-year process. But, I think that we can look at our own priorities. Like the council has to approve every fence that's over 6 feet tall, right? And there's a whole permit process around that. And we choose as a town to make that a priority. And if individual trees are being cut down, and that's one of the largest things, and I don't believe there's anything that prevents or any statutes, like it's easy to build a tree, it's easy to build a fence and cut down a tree. Like that's a reorganization of what our own priorities are. And so would love to think about, are there ways that we can try to add some structure around some of these processes that may be some of the biggest offenders, at least initially, as we think about sort of large scale, what type of investment as a town and community are we willing to do? What conversations do we need to make in terms of cuts to sort of help fund this, which is a larger, more in-depth conversation. But I have to believe that there's opportunities that we can more quickly think about ways to sort of start the education process, permit, whatever it is, that hopefully would make a difference sooner rather than later.
Agreed. That's a good point. And just to add to that, the education piece of it can happen immediately. So we have a new town crier that just hit the website. It hasn't hit my mailbox yet anyway. And if the tree subcommittee would like to submit articles, then please feel free. And I can tell you that a lot of people in town read the town crier every single month. I'm surprised, delighted every time I go campaigning to find out how many people have read my articles in there. Ms. Whalen, Ms. Otto, do you have another question, or is your hand just up from free? Okay, Ms. Whalen.
I did want to mention that the grant from the Chesapeake Bay Trust or something included $4,000 for the purpose of educating the public. And Ms. Laverne Peaks reached out to the tree subcommittee to ask us, if we had any ideas and thoughts about how to do that. So that's something I know that town staff is working on right now.
Great, fantastic. Councilmember Foe.
That's what keeps coming up into my head, and I don't know how to state this. It's frustrating. I understand that. The work that the Green Team has done here is excellent, and it is essential. I just removed a tree. I did. It's a white mulberry. It's an invasive species. It was separating at its base. Is big coverage. I intend on planting at least 5 to 7 native species to replace it. I believe the educational component of this is so essential. Individual property members, and I know that former council member Glaros, who's on this call, participated in funding this. We have up to $6,000 per property, $150 per native tree. I may have even read something that they've bumped that up to $300 if they are a specific diameter. I've been talking about this program for years, and I feel like very few people listen or activate or are willing to do the work to see this environmental impact that we can take on local levels, like Sarah advocated in a message earlier. It's frustrating. I'm also concerned about legislation that goes into tree removal. I would need to see something that allows a homeowner who plans on replacing an invasive species with native species the opportunity to achieve that kind of goal. It's really changed our yard for the better, and I think it's going to be an incredible addition to us. I don't have any further comments. That's been on my chest because I just removed a tree, and I wanted to ensure you that I still supported this, even though in light of that.
That might have been what Ms. Wayland heard today was you.
It was a few days ago, but it's a white mulberry, invasive. It was a danger to our neighbors, and I will replace it, Sarah, Alex, and everyone else. I promise, multiple times over.
Very good. Okay. Ms. Wayland, again, go ahead.
Actually, I'd love if Alex could talk a little bit about the tree commissions that other towns have for basically overseeing the trees that people, can and can't remove.
Thanks, Sarah. I just want to provide the example of College Park, which had a relatively extensive tree ordinance for years, and they've just upgraded theirs. So they have a tree commission within the city, again, of College Park, where if a property owner wants to remove a tree, they have to issue a permit. They have to fill out a permit and present it to the tree commission in a decision. And what the tree commission looks at is, number one, is the condition of the tree. Is the tree dying? Is it diseased? Or is it a healthy tree? They make a decision accordingly. Of course, the city has an arborist to make this decision. If the homeowner is not happy with that decision, they can get another independent arborist to make a second opinion about this, half of the cost being covered by the city. And then the decision again goes before the tree commission. If the property owner is still not happy with that decision, they go before the town or the city council in terms of tree removal for that. Now, if the city council decides that the property owner can remove this healthy tree, what happens is the property owner has to pay a fee based on the circumference of the tree at breadth height. So it's kind of a standard denomination that's used in the arbor community. And so they pay a certain amount of dollars per circumference. So obviously, if you have a larger tree, you're going to pay more. In my opinion, that's a very, very democratic process, and it's a very fair process, because if a homeowner wants to remove a tree, they can do it. But the money that they pay is going to go into a tree fund to fund other homeowners so they can have free or very low cost trees planted in their community. And I believe there's a clause that says if you do remove a tree on your property, you need to plant at least one other tree somewhere else on the property. So again, there's a lot of trees that are being lost on private property in the town. And there's even individuals that cut down trees in the right of way in the town. And I've experienced that on my street. And it's a little concerning that it's oftentimes done on a Saturday or Sunday when we don't have enforcement in place. If we co-opt with the police department or had inspectors on call during a weekend, that may be able to alleviate it. But I hope I answer your question, Sarah. And again, I would look to follow through with the town on creating legislation that would have some sort of clauses in terms of if property owners wanted to take a tree down on their own property.
Thank you, Mr. Hurdle. Appreciate that that answer. It's getting late, but I will take Ms. Bado's question, and hopefully we can then wrap up the presentation. Ms. Bado?
Apologies, I'll keep it short. I just wanted to say that as we say on the slide, we are happy to help out with any ideas, thoughts. I know that as a committee, we have talked a lot about different types of things. Like we have actually done research on, I think, 6 or 7 neighboring towns legislation. So we have that research under our belt, which is why we're able to talk about it. And also, you know, we've talked about many other types of programs that we didn't want to tell the town how to do all these things, but we created that appendix of ideas, like with an Adopt a Tree program for town residents to learn how to care for trees and their local street trees. Because we are aware that the town is limited in what our street trees are, because a lot of our parks are controlled by the MNCPPC, so and the state as well. So we understand that there are a lot of restrictions, but we're happy to help and provide more ideas if there's interest. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bado. I think that the council has very often weighed in with an interest in trees. So I think if there are possible future programs, we will be reaching out. Trust we'll be doing that. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much to the Sustainability Committee, to the Tree Subcommittee for the immense amount of work. And I know, having watched it happen on the other side of my living room, exactly how much work it was to both organize and analyze the data from the Tree Summit and to prepare this presentation. So I appreciate it personally, and I think that the other members of the council do as well. Thank you all, and we will be reaching out and having discussions over the months ahead about how to move forward expeditiously on these issues. So thank you. I've lost track of my agenda. There it is. Next on the agenda is my report. Looking at the clock, I'm going to be very fast. I just want to touch on 2 topics. The first of them, a topic I hoped I would not have to be bringing up, but I unfortunately do, is the COVID situation. Over the last 4 to 6 weeks, well, first of all, there's not a lot of good data about what's going on. So data collection about cases dropped in May, the declaration of the end of the public health emergency. So the data we basically have is wastewater data and hospitalizations and deaths. And the wastewater data is the leading one. It's the one that tells us what's coming as opposed to what's already happened, which the hospitalizations and deaths do. And the wastewater data has increased by more than a factor of 4 since early July, and is in fact now at a level similar to the peak we had back in January of this year. So please be safe. I personally know a lot of people, including family members, who had resisted getting COVID so far, who were novids, and many of these people have now gotten it just in the last few months. So please be careful. Please use your masks, and please take care. The second topic, and this is discussed in more length in my mayor's report that's available in the town crier for September, was exactly how bad in regards to climate change the month of July was. And it was not so bad here. The times that I was here in July, it seemed like it was a little bit hot, but not that bad. But globally, it was a terrible month. And it was the hottest month, certainly, since we've been collecting data. So hottest month since the mid 1800s. And people who study more distant history say that it's perhaps the hottest month globally in over 100,000 years. And so this is a wake-up call. This is something that says that climate change is here, that climate change is perhaps worse than we had anticipated, or at least moving faster than we had anticipated. And I'm calling on the council and the residents of the town and staff, all of us, to accelerate our efforts to address climate change. And in fact, discussion item 6 is going to be touching on that particular issue. So with that, I will conclude my report and hand the microphone to the town manager for the town manager's report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have a question for you, sir, because I have like 10 things to cover. Did you want to consider handling the fence permit on the agenda? Sir, I know you have a resident waiting. I didn't know if you had seen that the resident was there.
I was not aware that the resident was there. I assumed they were. I would actually be happy if the council is okay to bring work session discussion item 1 to this point. Any objections?
None.
None.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and jump to work session discussion item number 1 then.
Good evening, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. Tonight before you, we're seeking direction regarding a fence permit request for 4600 Riverdale Road. Staff received an application regarding this building permit application from Fences and Landscapes R Us on behalf of resident Mr. John Drabinski, who's here with us tonight, for the installation of a 6-foot wood fence in the backyard of his property. The project is described as an installation of about 50 feet of 6 feet tall horizontal pressure treated wood fencing and a gate. The applicant has obtained a Prince George's County permit for the project. All administrative requirements have been met for the fence permit application. And Mr. Drabinski can share with the council anything else that he may have regarding his project.
Mr. Drabinski, anything to add?
I would just add, well, first of all, thank you for taking the time. I know it's like a busy agenda and late at night. So I appreciate everybody's time. I would just add it's, set back quite a ways from the street. I believe it's 48 feet from the street to give us privacy in our backyard, which, otherwise everybody driving by sees everything we do. Talked about it with the one neighbor, we're on a corner, so talked about it with the neighbors next door and across the street who were both not only fine with it, but happy about it. They themselves have similar setups. And we would just really love to do this. We've been planting trees in our yard. So just to the previous issue, we've talked about it with neighbors. It's, as I said, it's set back from the street, and I'm happy to answer any questions or any queries people might have. I don't know the kind of questions that come up with this. This is our first permit of this sort.
Okay, usually people don't do too many fence permits, so you're not alone in being early in the process.
It seems like one of those things you do once and then hopefully never again, as long as you live in the house.
Exactly. So council members, are there any questions for Mr. Drabinski? Mr. Smith, Councilmember Smith, your microphone's open.
Oh yeah, I don't have any questions. I haven't spoken with this resident. Would love to, meet and speak with you, Mr. Drabinski, about any concerns you have around the town, being this is in Ward 1. But have no concerns here and would encourage us to place this on the consent agenda for our next meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Mr. Drabinski, I just have a few technical questions about the map that we're looking at right here. When I was looking on Google Street View, then it looked like there was a new structure, sort of where the 49 feet mark is on here. Is that so? Is that a new structure, or was it a temporary structure? What can you explain what that was?
Yeah, it's just a storage shed for gardening materials.
Okay. And the other question was about the driveways. So it says new proposed driveway, I think is the word. I have to squint a little bit to look at it. And is that the driveway that's actually in place? Is it an old plan or?
Yeah, so I think Carlos recycled our plan.
Okay.
But yeah, that was paved 2.5 years ago.
Okay, very good.
It was previously approved before we bought the house in July 2020. And it was prior approved when we purchased it and we had it paved. So.
Okay, very good. I was just, like I said, I was just a little bit confused about the plans, but those both sound fine. Any additional council comments or public comments about this? Mr. Barron, go ahead.
I was just going to say I live diagonally across the street and fully support this. So happy to say that.
It's always good to hear that from a neighbor. So appreciate you speaking up, Mr. Barron.
Hi, Dan.
Hey.
Any additional public or comments from the public or members of the council? Okay, Mr. Drabinski, this will go on the consent agenda unless I hear differently from Councilmember Smith. So you shouldn't have to attend. Just keep an ear out for him to contact you in case something crops up that we do need to discuss it in 2 weeks. So thank you for attending and appreciate your plans. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you all's work. Take care.
Okay, I have to stay organized now. So now we jump back in the agenda to the town manager's report. Mr. Town Manager.
Yes, and I will go as quickly as I can, Mr. Mayor. It's been a very busy summer for the staff team. Some logistical things. Town Hall and DPW operations will be closed on September 4th in observance of Labor Day. It's important for residents to note there will be no trash collection or yard waste collection. We are continuing to have some difficulty in obtaining the police cruisers. They're simply not available. So vehicles that have been approved, we're in the process, but we haven't, out of the 4, I think we've gotten 1. So we're still seeing supply chain issues as it relates to some vehicles. Walk and talk dates, Saturday, September 23rd at 9:30. We'll start at Town Center. And then Saturday, October 28th at 9:30, we'll start at the Boys and Girls Club on 51st. And perhaps at some point, the council will consider renaming that structure as it continues to see some improvements made. Ms. Lewis was not able to be with us tonight, so I do not have an update on the Municipal Center project, but we will have an update for you all on September 11th. Staff did meet with representatives from the state regarding the Riverdale Road Bridge project. We've asked for schematics, copies of the schematics, so we can share those with the council. But they are looking at a new build in 2025. And there will be a temporary sidewalk, pedestrian sidewalk bridge, I'm sorry, a temporary bridge for pedestrian traffic while they remove and replace the bridge. So there will be an opportunity, because they're at about 60% design, for the council and the community to weigh in if there's anything we want to see added. There's going to be an opportunity for that. There's work continues in reference to improvements at Wagger Tail Dog Park. And from what we hear, depending on the weather, improvements should be complete by the end of this week. We did receive a reply which was sent out to the council from the Riverside or from MMCPPC reference Riverside Neighborhood Park. And it's our understanding that porta potties are installed. Staff are working on a schedule to review the town code sections. We talked to you all about that back in July. Actually, as we are getting more into reviewing code sections, we're probably going to have some other chapters added to the list. So what we're thinking, it's going to be about a 6 to 8 month process to go through everything on the list. The trolley trail lighting project, we had initially indicated to you that we would have that on the agenda for tonight. We're finalizing some things, and we expect that to be on the agenda for September 11th. Then the last two things, they kind of tie together. Reminder that our community children are back to school. And so it's important that we walk, we bike, and we drive safely. The last item I have is the scheduled bike lanes on Rivertech Court and College Park Academy. There's been some communications back and forth. College Park Academy has expressed concerns about having protected bike lanes. I had delayed the implementation of that project that was originally scheduled to see construction on August 17th. I've delayed it to after September 5th to give them an opportunity to revise their morning drop-off and their afternoon pickup to hopefully minimize congestion in the area through a well-orchestrated plan. But I think it's safe to say what I've heard in terms of feedback is that College Park Academy would rather not see protected bike lanes on Rivertech Court. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Are there any questions for the town manager from council or members of the public?
Mr. Mayor?
I will recognize Councilmember first. You can hold off, Laura. Councilmember Foe.
Mr. Town Manager.
Yes.
Concerning the protected bike lanes, do you have, or does staff have, when we approved those improvements?
We can certainly get that for you, sir. And Ms. Barnes can find when that was approved. I will say that they were first discussed, as far as I know, back in 2019.
Yeah.
And at a meeting, council meeting, where Chief Morris at the time and myself were speaking to the council about lowering the speed limit on Rivertech Court, because College Park Academy had mentioned that, but we were already working on it.
They were asking for public safety measures, right? I mean, that was the gist of the administration came to ask us specifically to adjust traffic to increase safety measures for the students, correct?
There was that concern expressed at the November 4th, 2019 meeting, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And in the packet material, then it discussed the future bike lanes. Did not describe them as protected, but it described future bike lanes.
It just seems that the current stance is counterintuitive to what they were asking for us in 2019. That's just the observation that I'm making.
Thank you, Councilmember Foe. Ms. Katz.
Yes, thank you so much. Mr. Town Manager, I was curious, can you help me understand regarding the intersection of Rhode Island Avenue and Queensbury? I know that some repaving was done there and work was done there, but there's currently no crosswalk. There used to be two crosswalks marked on Queensbury, and they're not there now. And I have noticed other continental style crosswalks that have been put in farther away from that intersection. But with the farmer's market coming up, it seems like there's not even a line for stopping, you know, where the stop sign is. So it seems very dangerous at this moment. And it's been that way for most, I think last week and this week. I was curious if that's going to be the permanent situation, or especially with the farmer's market coming up on Thursday. I'm just was concerned about that intersection.
Well, I appreciate that, and I will get with the contractor and find out what their schedule is. I do not know what their schedule is to complete their work, but they're still working in the community, and so I'll see what I can learn and see if it can be done by Thursday.
Thank you, sir. And I assume you would agree with me that of all the crosswalks to put in right now, those would be a priority, not the ones that are farther away.
I'll see what I can learn, Ms. Katz.
Thank you.
Mr. Behrend?
Sorry, I don't know protocol. I have more of a comment than a question. Should I hold it?
I think you can present it right here if you want to.
All
It's-
right.
If it's responsive to the town manager's report.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, I'm sorry. I know it's late and I'll probably end up being long-winded. So I apologize if that's detrimental to my comments. But I just wanted to say that I was personally just really thrilled to hear that the town was considering adding protected bike lanes on River Tech Court. We're in a county that leads both the state and region in traffic fatalities every single year. So far this year, 73 people have died in traffic crashes, 19 pedestrians and 2 people riding bikes. That's compared to our peers in Montgomery County that have seen only about 29 fatalities this year. Protected bike lanes have been shown to increase safety for everybody, not just bicyclists, but pedestrians and drivers as well. They add protection for cyclists 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I know school pickup and drop off is important, but it is disconcerting to trade off the safety of everyone for a large segment of the week for a short period of time during the school day. And I'd also just highlight that protected bike lanes are really important for our kind of a regional approach as well. A lot of people, I think even neighbors in our area are interested in replacing short car trips with bike trips, but are uncomfortable riding in traffic. And protected bike lanes are bike facilities that are all ages and abilities. So it would open up opportunities for a lot of our neighbors. And then second, even though it's relatively short, it's a pretty important piece in kind of the plans for regional development of our bike facilities over the next couple of years. The 2020 Discovery District Plan includes proposals for protected bike lanes on River Road. So the River Tech connection will open up all ages and abilities bike facilities for folks traveling to the Metro, Purple Line, and businesses and neighborhoods all throughout this area. And I guess the other thing I would just highlight is I think, Mayor, your comments about the climate issues that were highlighted in July. I think we need to start looking at mode shift, and this is one way. About 50 years ago, 50% of students biked or walked to school. Now it's less than 10%. And part of that is because there's no safe ways to get to school walking and biking. As the UMD vice president mentioned earlier, I think one of the things that I just enjoy and it makes me happy is seeing there's a group of students riding to College Park Academy on the trolley trail every morning or afternoon. I tend to bump into them as they're heading to or from school. And again, I think the protected bike lanes would open that up for even more students at the academy. So anyway, just in conclusion, I just really appreciate the town kind of being a leader in the county. This would be potentially the first, if not among the first, if not the first protected bike lane in a county that sees way too many people die needlessly in traffic crashes. and kind of discourage that the school would be opposed to something that would benefit the community as well as their students.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Barron. Councilmember Enyang, go ahead.
I was going to talk about the bike lanes. I think Mr. Barron just laid out all the reasons more eloquent than I could have.
Yeah, that was a home run.
yeah, it was planted that way. We'll just take the soundbite and share it. I would just say that it's always going to be inconvenient for someone, right? When we make changes like this that are going to have to be intentional in order to sort of change the way we do things. And so though I acknowledge the disruption that this could cause, but you know, the status quo is one, it's illegal, and then two, I think it's unattainable, right? And I think it's important that we take these steps, as uncomfortable they may be, in order to sort of connect. And you know, it's the foundation towards a larger modal shift, as has been mentioned before. And I would encourage you know, the town to sort of help and sort of be a willing thought partner in terms of thinking about other ways that College Park Academy can think about how they stage dismissal and arrival, knowing that there are large parking lots across the street that are often underused in general, but definitely during sort of pickup and drop off times. I have to believe that there has to be an opportunity for parents to be able to stage there for, you know, 2 hours a day, 9 months out of the year, 5 days a week in order to do this as and still allow for us to have like protected bike lanes. So happy to have that conversation and support any way around that. And we'll definitely vote for anything that allows this thing to move forward. And Mr. Town Manager, I appreciate you delaying this as a way to make sure all parties are, you know, that the town is acting in good faith. But I'm extremely concerned about delaying this any further, because I do think the town has risk and exposure by saying we're going to do something and then we delay it for whatever reason. I pray that nothing bad happens in that period of time. But this is, as a cyclist, as a, you know, parent, you know, as a resident, you know, this is worthwhile investment that I think is important to sort of, you know, make the roads more safe in general. And I look forward to not just rolling this out and seeing what we can learn from it, but then also identifying where the next investment is going to come from. But let's at least get this one, you know, landed. Thank you for your update.
Thank you, Mr. Enyang. I'll just add that staff and the town manager have been working very closely, even to the point of offering engineering resources to assist the academy in finding a different way to do their drop-offs. So so we will continue to move forward. I saw that I have an email that's arrived from one of the College Park Academy board members. I'll try to read that in a quiet moment, perhaps this evening, if I can find one, and we can perhaps bring it up towards the end of the meeting. And unless there are any other questions or comments for the town manager, I will duck ahead to council, committee, and ward reports, starting with Councilmember Smith, Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been a great summer. It's been a busy summer. I personally just got back from vacation over the weekend in wonderful, warm Las Vegas. Next time you're in Vegas, if you see some new chandeliers at the Park MGM, I contributed a great amount of investment into installing those while I was there. So what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I want to assure folks that there are two things at least that do not stay in Vegas. One is anything you get permanently inked onto your body, which I did while I was in Vegas. Got a new tattoo. That was fun. So that came home with me. And to the mayor's earlier comments, the other thing that doesn't stay in Vegas and happens in Vegas is COVID. As I learned this afternoon, a few hours before this meeting, when I tested positive for COVID, just coming up on about a year to the day since I last had COVID. As the mayor mentioned, this is very real. It's a spike. Take care of yourselves. We're not out of the woods here. I know I have gotten a little complacent in mask usages, which I wish I had listened more to the mayor whenever we were at the same events, and he pointed out that I was a little bit complacent about mask usage. Yeah, COVID's still here. It's spiking. Let's take care of ourselves, take care of each other. I've been happy to see as I came back before I left. I don't think there were any crosswalks around, aside from the ones that pre-existed previously, Town Center Market along from Queensberry Road and those spots. And I came back and there are crosswalks there. In fact, when I first got back, was at Town Center Market, and they were just wrapping up the work, I think, on the one. And I cannot confirm, but I think I might have been the first person to use that crosswalk, which was very excited. And I had no previously planned business in Mabel Munch Park, but I wanted to use that crosswalk, so I did. I know Miss Lewis isn't here, so Mr. Lustician, I'm sure you will pass my thanks on the work that went into that. I know it isn't easy work, it isn't quick work, but I appreciate your staff for sticking to it. As mentioned, Labor Day coming up. Some folks here would be shocked to learn that that's one of my favorite days of the year. Labor Day isn't just a day we get off. It is a day to remember that folks throughout the history of this country have fought and literally died for things we take for granted, such as child labor laws, weekends, holidays, basic workplace safety, the ability to support a family on an honest day's work. And those are not things that are preserved in perpetuity in our country. Those things are constantly under attack, including, from some of the businesses in our town that thankfully are not owned by people in our town, but pull resources and funds out of our town and take them to other places, to people who already have money. So hope folks will take a moment to remember that. If you would like some examples of the struggle for labor rights and the working class, we're already almost at 10:30 here, so I will take those questions offline. I'm sure there will be a ton of them. So happy Labor Day, everybody. Looking forward to that. And I do want to mention College Park Charter School. And I want to thank the school for their interest in our safety and infrastructure in the town of Riverdale Park. I know in my time on this council, or I believe in my time on this council, I haven't seen a representative from College Park Charter School, which is located in Riverdale Park, here to express their concerns about the community. So I'm glad they're taking an interest in that. Unfortunately, the member of the College Park Charter School board, who was here earlier, I guess had to leave. So appreciate the interest that was shown in at least the first part of the meeting. This issue with bike lanes, Mr. Barron was very articulate in his sort of explanation of the issue here, but there's one thing that I think was left out, and that is bike commuting is great for students that live close by, that live in our community. For the most part, maybe for some reasons there are people who live by that do drive there, but we're talking about embracing and supporting the convenience of folks who don't live in our community over the safety of those who do, right? Folks that ride their bikes to that school live in our community. For the most part, the people that get dropped off here do not. And I, for one, find that abhorrent, especially when you consider some of the demographics of the students in our and families in our community, and the fact that the actual public school that is our community, we regularly spend money buying coats and shoes and things of that nature for students who can't necessarily afford them. But let's not inconvenience folks in their minivans dropping kids off. It blows my mind that a school would be advocating to not have bike lanes around the property where they're located. And I don't understand how they get to that place. So I hope we can move expeditiously on installing those protected bike lanes. Mr. Lestitian, I appreciate your spirit of collaboration and trying to find solutions here, but I hope that this is not something that we need to delay again, and we can move forward expeditiously after I believe September 5th was the date you mentioned. Looking forward to that and hope to see some brand new protected bike lanes along River Tech Court. This has been a very interesting meeting for me, and that a lot of my soapboxes have come up here, so I will leave it at that. I've taken enough of y'all's time with my pet issues. So thank you very much. It's good to see everybody again.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Foe, Ward 2.
Good evening, everybody. I've already echoed my sentiments on College Park Academy and protected bike lanes. I am in full support of what other council members have iterated this evening. Just to try and encapsulate what I was going to speak to tonight in a time frame that is effective. I had the luck of being on the New York-Vermont border this July as 1,000-year storms hit both southeast in the Hudson Valley and in central Vermont. I can't think of the town, Ludlow, we were driving through on the way home, and to see the absolute physical devastation that occurs in these communities because of flooding just makes me think of home. And seeing where we are, it's not an if, it's a when for our community. And I believe that our dialogue consistently is this council needs to evolve around what are we going to do with all that extra water. I know that we have, I don't want to call them pipe dreams, we have plans, we have future investments made, but I don't think we can't stop there. We need to continue to dialogue how we can protect our residents from the actual future that they're going to face. And lastly, for this evening, today is the first day of school for Prince George's County Public School teachers and students. My heart is in those places with those teachers and students. Teaching post-pandemic has been really fundamentally different and volatile. And I think we need to be aware of what it is that our teachers are facing, what our students are facing on a day-to-day basis. I know that in Fairfax County, what I am seeing is poverty's on levels that I've never seen before. 61% of my current student population is living below the poverty line. I know that we are seeing increased drug use and violence, and I am just asking and begging our communities to be engaged with their students every single day. We are seeing overdoses at a level that I couldn't even begin to imagine in middle schools. It's scary, scary stuff, and it needs to be dialogued intently at home about what it is that these kids are running into. It is significantly worse than our experience growing up. With that being said, I also want to commend Councilmember Smith's comments on Labor Day. I make sure that on those days I will be thinking of my father, my sister, my brother, who advocated on behalf of teachers and students in their respective school districts in Western Pennsylvania, even as people drove by and hurled insults and treated them poorly. They stood up on behalf of better schools for both students and teachers. And I am extremely proud to call them my family. And I will be thinking of them on Labor Day as well. With that, I yield my time.
Thank you, Councilmember Foe. Councilmember Lingua, Ward 3.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Bullet form addition on this. Regarding Riverside Neighborhood Park, yes, the porta potties have gone in. There's been some improvement on the maintenance of the grounds. They could probably be doing a little bit better job. I did read the letter. I'm glad that there's this dialogue is is back on the table. I hope that we're going to be able to get worked out the permitting process. I think that's what they want because it allows them to help them plan their maintenance on the field if they know when people want to be using the fields, which I think is a great idea. And that they'll be doing some touch-up work on the larger field is welcome news to hear. One thing I didn't read in the letter, but I'm making the assumption is that the permitting priority agreement with Park and Planning that was established in 2000, it was 2004, is still in effect. And so that folks in town who would like to have events there, reserve fields for any number of things. I know there are some folks in town who play softball there twice a week. Would be very appreciative of being able to employ that permitting process. So they have a little bit better groomed field that they would play on. They've also asked about us talking to Park and Planning about putting a, gosh, I don't know what the exact term is for the upper portion of the backstop that comes slightly over home plate. I don't know if you call it a cupola or what, but roof, however you want to call it, cage type structure. If that could be added to the top of the fencing there, they said that would be appreciated. I think also at the upcoming Park and Planning meeting that they're going to have later in September, the open house, I think it would be good if the town is able to submit a letter asking for some additional improvements there as well as to other places, most specifically though to get away from the porta potties and looking at updates to the facilities there, the restroom facilities. I know they mentioned that in the letter, which is good. I think really engaging them to complete that project sooner rather than later would be welcomed by all who are using that park. Sarvis Cafe is open, and I hope folks are able to swing by there either to grab breakfast in the morning or lunch or to pick up a dinner on the way out to go home. I think their dinner services to go, where I believe the breakfast and lunch is dine in. Haven't gotten over there yet. I've been nudged by Dennis Nola to get over there, and I will. It's been a long time in the making and getting that done, but I think it is definitely a welcomed item to have over along Kenilworth Avenue. It's a welcomed item for folks who want to be able to go somewhere and learn the business, either front or back of the house when it comes to restaurant and hospitality. There are numerous partners involved in this who have helped out with this, be that Prince George's Community College, CCAR CDC, as well as Kaiser Permanente. All of them, I think, we owe a great appreciation of thanks for their persistence and determination in getting this open. On another note, I've had reports from residents over in the 4700 block of Nicholson or Nicholson 47th Avenue and Lafayette converge together at the Shoemaker property where SGS is, regarding their liberal use of the roadways as a backfill lot for them. to offload heavy equipment, at times blocking traffic. No safety measures really employed. Reports of litter, reports of public urination, public drinking, music, probably at decibels, probably in violation of our peace and good order codes. I've been informed that that a couple departments have been out to engage them, see if they're, if that can be remediated and addressed by the company. Whether SGS complies with that remains to be seen, but I do appreciate, as well as the neighbors appreciate, the efforts that the town's made so far in terms of addressing that. And with that, I will conclude the report.
Thank you, Councilmember Lingua. Councilmember Inyang, Ward 4.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I know it's late. I know there's still ongoing conversations in like the Madison Hill neighborhood around Parkdale, the high school. You've been in contact with Prince George's County Public Schools. I believe like the director of maintenance has sort of been involved, and I believe we're waiting on an update for a fence, for the fence line to be extended out to hopefully mitigate some of the truancy trespassing in that community. So hopefully, when I know more, I'll definitely share with this group as well as residents there, and hopefully we can, as the school year starts, hopefully this is not as big of an issue moving forward, but I know that's years in the making, so that's definitely top of mind. I know there's a lot of issues around permit parking in the Madison Hill area, and I think as the permit parking sort of begins to roll out in other neighborhoods, like I know Riverdale Park Station is something that it's been talk for a while in terms of what's that going to look like. I think it'll be good to sort of learn lessons from there as we think about rolling it out, and how, if anything, will we want to change? What forms do we want to do to just again sort of engage with the community, since it's been a little while since the last time I think the town reached out. So we'll definitely reach out to town staff to think about what that might look like, which goes to my next point about the road transfers and the mailbox right of way. I know they've been approved and then been approved again. Like, is the ink dry? Is there proof of signed signatures that can be laid out? Would love to get an update about that from the town manager. And then just lastly, I know we haven't met since the National Night Out. Just want to commend the town staff for that. It was a great event. It was good to, even personally, meet a large percentage of the police staff. And I got some miles in beforehand and after, but literally riding around, the community was there. It was a great turnout. The Kona Ice was fantastic as well. And just, how can we think about keeping that momentum, right? And I think every event will be bigger the more it becomes standard and the more people, the community sort of expects this to happen. And so definitely, thinking about ways that we can sort of, I wasn't able to make the walk and talk because I was out of town. But, how do we make those bigger moving forward is definitely something I'm looking into. And I know, I believe the police, maybe she's not on it, but I know she was on at some point, but I was offered a ride along, and I plan on taking up that offer, and would encourage anyone from the town council who's interested to let me know. Maybe we can coordinate. But the National Night Out, we rode through sort of wards 5 and 6, and I know for myself, it's I haven't really gotten as much time sort of spending in those communities. So would definitely like to take an opportunity to look through and sort of just see what's learn more about sort of our town staff and what they do and sort of any issues that come up and get a different perspective. I think it'd be invaluable for all of us, even though it's not necessarily our individual wards. We're too small of a town to sort of, really be thinking sort of alliances anyway. I think we're kind of all at large when it comes to it in some regards. So look forward to that as well. And I'll leave it at that, but I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Councilmember Inyang. Mr. Town Manager, you have an answer for the street transfers?
Yes, sir. We're just waiting for the documents, and as soon as we have them, we'll record them. Director Lewis spoke with some folks from K-Fritz earlier today. We're hopeful to have the signed documents either tomorrow or the next day, and then we will record them. As soon as they're recorded, it becomes official. But we currently don't have the documents, but we're hopeful in the next 2 days.
Okay, and then the mailbox, I believe the HOA vice president reached out to me. I believe they need a countersign as well. Is that process already ongoing, or are we waiting for some of the other stuff to happen first?
The mailboxes would be separate, but I need to check with Director Lewis. I do not know off the top of my head, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Mejia had to duck out. She has an early day to start tomorrow, and so she left early. And that brings us to Councilmember Kellon, Ward 6.
Okay, Mr. Major, thank you. I thank all of us for being here tonight. And as we are lamenting on these safety issues, tree planting, and climate change, and student safety and other people. Well, let me first of all say, like, this climate change we are talking about, the root is far from us here. What people are not seeing there, we're just talking about tree planting, people cutting tree, burning bush, doing this. This problem is far away, it's in the east of Europe, Antarctica. Let me bring this to you. You all going to focus on this. This Antarctica, people has gone there with sheep and everything. They drill in this ice. They say there is a mineral under there, oil, and it's melting the ice. That's why I see a lot of flooding now. And that place, when that ice all melt, the whole world going to be suffered. If there is any chance to talk to these people to move from that area, some people are building house on top of the ice. Some are drilling the ice to go down. Then there is a lot of ships on top of that ice, melting the ice. And when that ice melts, some part of the wall going to covered with water. And that place is the one that controls the whole world fresh water. People don't know this. That water I see in that Antarctica, it has a road under the whole wall, under the ground. Wherever I go, when you dig a well, you get a fresh water. It's from there. But people are going there for money, putting sheep on top there, drilling that ice, they're going down, there's oil there, there's a mineral there. Well, and God said, the desert going to be green, the place where they are green, they're going to be a desert. This has been mentioned for a long time, and that is what is coming right now. Let them talk to these people. There is a wealth all over the world. Let them forget about that place. If not, time will come to get a drinking water. It's going to be something, man. Now, for the safety of the students and other pedestrians, Then I mentioned the last time, like 64th Avenue Parkview Garden here. Like when people are coming from the west going to the east, when they want to make a left, there's no arrow there. Many people die there. I know, I've been in this area for a long time. Let them try to put a traffic arrow there when they are making left to go into the Parkview Garden. That will help a lot of people. Then number 2, Prince George's Town, the same East-West Highway. When they want to make left to go inside, there's no arrow, lights. When they are coming out, they want to make left to go back. That is better because the lights from the East Pine going to give them way. But to go inside is a very difficult thing. You have to have an arrow over there. All right. That's my second point. My third point, I mentioned the last time, between Mega Mart and the Bank of America on Riverdale Road, they have, by the bank, they let them have a crosswalk, like zebra crossing there. Because many students are walking on foot there to cross at East-West Highway, go to William Wall. Let them put some zebra crossing over there. That people that are coming from Mega Marts, they can use the zebra crossing. People that are coming from the Bank of America going to the Mega Mart, they can use that zebra crossing. Because that side, they have a stop sign there. Right? That's number 2. And if you look at Fletcher's Field, most of the students don't have a school bus at Fletcher's Field. Most of the students, they don't have a school bus. So the mayor and council, let's try to see about this. Sometimes they strain, they walk on foot, going to Bladensburg High School. Some are going to William Well, like that. Let them try to arrange school bus for some of them over there. So, as I was saying, please, Mr. Mayor, if you can able to pass this message to the Congress or the governor, to the Congress, to the senators, let them send this message to Atlantica. Let us stop drilling that ice over there looking for oil. If not, the whole world going to suffer. This is my take. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. Your proposal for a raised crosswalk at the Bank of America is very interesting. I don't understand exactly where the proposed changes in turn signals are, but I would like to reach out to you sometime over the next month and find that out. So let's talk. Okay. Okay, that brings us to the end of the reports. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Are there any public comments? Seems quiet. So let's discuss the rest of the work session discussion items. It's 10:45. There are a few of the items that are here, and there are items that I promised Councilmember Kellogg we would discuss under new business or unfinished business. I would suggest that we should skip over items 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So do 1, 2, 3, and then skip to unfinished business and new business at that time. Is this acceptable to the council?
We've already done item 1, haven't we?
Yes, we have. So 2, 3, then skip to 1, so we can get out of here. Because there's going to be a couple of items under unfinished and new business also.
Wait, 2, 3, and then skip to 1.
Yes.
We've already done 1. That was
One,
consent, wasn't it?
one under unfinished business. Excuse
Oh,
me.
the one under unfinished business. Fine by me.
Fine by me.
Okay, if I don't hear any objections, then that will be the plan. So let's go to work session discussion item number 2, street closure request, 6200 block of 43rd.
Good evening, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. Staff received outreach from the city of Hyattsville regarding the annual block party request, the street closure for the 6200 block of 43rd Street. The event this year is on September 30th from around 12 noon to 8 p.m. It's their annual block party. The city of Hyattsville has already approved for their portion of the street to be closed. And so this is our opportunity to weigh in if we have any concerns or to move forward and also approve our portion of the street be closed. The city of Hyattsville typically provides the cones and all of the tools, I guess, to block the roadway. And again, this is a request that happens just about every year.
Are there council questions or comments on this presentation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilmember Foe.
Can we move this to consent agenda? Consent agenda?
That's an interesting question. Vic?
Okay, if it's not recommended, this is annual. Hyattsville already is approved.
Mm-hmm.
I would support that.
Yeah.
Okay, I will work with the town manager if we can, I will do so. Okay.
Okay.
If there's some legal requirements that we need to take action, then it will be on the regular agenda.
Understood.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, council committees and assignments. I'd like to thank Councilmember Enyang for his long response to my letter about council committees. So one of his suggestions was elimination of the legislative committee. To do that, we have to pass an ordinance. It is currently in town code that requires us to have that. But that can happen at some point in the future, and we could have, staffing of it with the understanding that it was on the way out. I have some concerns about that, but we can discuss that. The rest of the committees, again, Mr. Enyang, I've heard from him about his interests in those committees. I need to hear from the rest of you if you have interests, because I will be bringing a proposal at the September 11th meeting for who will be on what committees and who will chair what committees. So please reach out to me and provide information on what your interests are. And I hope that if any council members need this document printed out, that town staff can provide that. Director Barnes, I see, is shaking her head and is able to do so. So that's about it for my presentation. Does anybody want to discuss anything, have any questions about this document?
Mr. Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sending it out. And it's been a good thing to do as I've been jet lagged and up way too early and sending it out. But, I think, my thought process was really trying to, I know that there's council committees now that, outside of finance are more, we have them because we have to by law, but they haven't really been used. And so really trying to think about, what are ways that we'll actually use these committees as more organizing features. And I think in an ideal way, we can move some of this work to some of the committees. So we're not having meetings that we're, going to 11 o'clock like tonight. So, really trying to be more thought-based, where it's clear what the mandate is. And that was my number one rationale behind the legislative committee. And it not necessarily being like a catch-all committee, but would love to hear some of your concerns. Obviously, I want to at least give us a starting point that we can sort of discuss and talk about as a group moving forward. But I think it covers most of the things. But there may be a committee that we don't necessarily have now that might be useful. And I guess my last question is just like in terms of the like public's role and involvement in this. Is it more like all of our meetings where the public is sort of honorary meeting like members of any committee members, or is it actually like, they can actually be part of it? Thinking of like the green team as, as an example, one of my proposals is like we should just have it as a formal committee, but there is like a whole group of folks who are actually doing this work already. Would we be bringing them in the fold, or would it be something separate but equal intentionally? Would love to know some thoughts and background behind that.
So interesting question about the Sustainability Committee in particular. These committees have traditionally been, the town council, members of the town council going off to discuss things. And of course, members of the public are invited and in fact, I would say are required to be given a voice at these committee meetings, but membership of members of the public on these committees, I would have to think about that and review the charter. Honestly, I hadn't considered that until you just brought it up. I can discuss with you individually my concerns about elimination of the legislative committee. I think that we don't need to hash that out here.
Sounds good.
So let's plan to get together over the next few weeks.
Okay.
Any additional council? Mr. Town Manager, go ahead.
The only thing I would add is as the council works to have activated committees, the Open Meetings Act applies. So that means the committee meetings have to be not just published with an agenda, but also minutes need taken. And so it's going to be a change for staff in terms of workload and making those minutes available and that sort of thing.
Thank you for that reminder. The requirements for minutes are pretty minimal. So we can probably capture those unless it's a very hot committee meeting, they'll probably capture those on a small fraction of a page. But agreed that we do have to do that. Okay, I think I am done in discussing this unless other council members or members of the public want to weigh in on this topic. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Just briefly, I want to thank Councilmember Anyang for putting together some thoughts on this. I haven't had time to review yet, but sort of operationalizing the Community Affairs Committee has long been a thing that I've sort of noodled on. So looking forward to doing some work on that. And again, thank you to my colleague from Ward 4.
Thank you. Okay, next on our newly truncated agreement are, I didn't mention number 9 specifically as eliminating that. So I'll just say there's minutes, read them. Please let Director Barnes know of any changes that are required and we'll vote on them in the consent agenda. First item under unfinished business on the agenda already, Riverdale Park Community and Municipal Center project.
Yes, so Mr. Mayor, that's 6601 Baltimore Avenue, the former Army Reserve building. Just wanted to have it on here to see if there's any questions from the council. I have spoken with the contact from the Army Reserve, reference tours. What he has offered up is 2 different days, a Thursday and a Friday. They don't have to be consecutive, and he can do 5:30 in the PM. So if there's feedback from the council on which dates would fit, I can coordinate with him. He will need a week or so to adjust his schedule, but those are the dates and times that he would be available to open the building for the council. The only other thing I have, Mr. Mayor, I didn't know if you wanted to give a brief update on the meeting you had with a staff member and the fact that we have even a more professional booklet with our renderings and that sort of thing.
Sure, I'll be happy to update on that. I met with a staffer from Senator Van Hollen's office and discussed the project and our plans for it with him. And he said he would be taking it back to other staff within the senator's office and reaching back out with questions or comments. So they are aware. They have both the documents that I distributed at MML and the new packet with the renderings. And as I said, he seemed engaged and interested, and we'll be reaching back out again. Anything additional?
Not for me, sir.
Okay. Okay, very good. The next item that I have in my notes as coming up under unfinished business are the 54th Avenue speed humps. Mr. Town Manager, I can try to, but if you can sort of touch on the issues that have to happen between a request and construction of the speed humps, just so we understand the length of the process and how it will work. Appreciate that.
Yes, so Director Barnes, by chance, do you have a copy of the policy you can pull up? Because off the top of my head, sir, I don't know the amount of time and the steps.
The steps that I remember, and I'll just start this, and if Director Barnes can pull it up, then all the better, is that the process is supposed to start with a petition that contains signatures of a high fraction of the, as I remember it, property owners along a stretch of road. And of course, the property owners here are going to largely be the building owners. Oh, good. Here we go. So these are the requirements. So we have to do a traffic study to determine the number of vehicles. The posted speed limit is, of course, under 20, so that's given. Number of lanes, various other criteria involving what the street is like. And I believe that probably most of these are covered. I'm not sure about the public transit route. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure about some of so item 7, the item, and then item 8, we need to consult with the emergency responders about whether 54th can meet that requirement or not. Then the construction standards, that will be something that we'll probably have to engage our engineering firm, or at least the Director of Public Works, to let us know. And the 300 feet is probably work. And I think 3B is not going to be a problem. So I guess we can go through item 4, the initiation of speed hump installation by the town. It's but that's subject to the availability of funds. As I remember it, each speed hump is several $1,000s.
About, I think it's about 4,000, sir.
Yeah, okay, I'd count that as several. So if the proposal from Councilmember Callan is to put 3 or 4, then we're starting to get into needing to add that into the capital budget for $12,000, $15,000, something like that. So we can check into what's available in the budget and we can look at that, but that's an item that we'll have to do. If we go through the process where it is upon request of owners and residents, then there's a long process there. If you can just scroll down through 6, I'm not going to sort of go through it, but it involves, again, traffic study, and measurement of traffic volumes and traffic speeds, and various other requirements. So this is the policy that governs the installation of speed humps. And so we need to go through this and figure out a checklist and go through it in order to install the speed humps. So Councilmember Callan, then I just wanted to alert you as to the existence of this policy, and I'm happy to talk you through it as long as I'm not in a meeting of the town or a meeting at my day job. So let's set things up on evenings or weekends to discuss this.
And Mr. Major, do not forget for the traffic, for the street light or the Spring Lane, 54th Avenue.
And that is going to, I'm going to bring up under new business because I think this is the first time we've heard of it.
No, this is the second time now I'm saying about it.
But did you bring it up at an earlier meeting?
Yeah, I mentioned it, both of them. The last time again, I mentioned it.
Okay, I didn't understand it. If we can, if you want to discuss that right now, we can.
Well, there's no discussion. If they can install it, that's the only thing.
So if I understand where this traffic light is to go, it's at Kenilworth, is that correct? Where Spring
Yeah,
Lane?
yeah, from Spring Lane, you know where that old lady live? In that cove by Spring Lane.
Oh, okay, so these are, I'm sorry, I thought you said
54th
traffic,
Avenue.
traffic light. These are street lights.
Yeah,
So,
street lights, yeah.
so again, the street lights are something that has to go in on a budget. I don't know what the number is now, but 15 years ago it was about $1,000 per to install. And so we have to budget for that.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
It's considerably higher than that now for the bases and the conduit, and that the installation of lights along 54th cost us $150,000. So it's definitely something we would have to put in the CIP for next year.
Yeah, the $1,000 was just for putting a Cobra lamp onto an existing telephone pole, and I don't remember what the situation is down there as to whether there are telephone poles that are available for them. But yeah, it's an expensive process, and we have to go through the budget process in order to pay for it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Of course. So I will move that item out of new business since we've discussed it here. So as I said, I got an email from a member of the College Park Academy board. He had asked if we could meet to discuss this, and the two dates that he proposed were August 31st at 3 to 4 p.m. I have a meeting on my day job that I cannot reschedule during that time frame. And his other proposed time was September 8th, 1 to 3 p.m. I said that I could do that, but I was honestly confused given our schedule for installing them. And he sent me a note at 10 p.m., 10:08 p.m. this evening, saying if we can't meet till then, please don't put up the lane blockers before that. We'll be happy to move with your schedule. And I sent him a note back saying that I did not think that the council was inclined to have additional delays. So Councilmember Smith, I see your hand is up. Go ahead.
Just a quick question, and I don't anticipate you have this number in front of you, so I'll give you a range. Would you say the number of publicly advised meetings that we have had since this project was first discussed would be greater than 10?
I think it would be much greater than 10, perhaps.
Greater than 20?
Perhaps more than 20, perhaps perhaps more than 30 even.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's
Have
ridiculous.
Any additional comments? So I sent a letter back and said that I was available evenings and over the Labor Day weekend to discuss this. And I'll wait to see what this person says. Because I mean, I was not hearing from at least 3 council members that you were inclined to have another delay, an additional delay. So unless I hear differently now, then that's the message I'm going to take.
My, just,
I'm
my,
sorry.
I was just saying, my opinion is, you know, you can jump off this call right now and put them up, you know, if that's easier. You know, I'm personally 100% opposed of any more delays because a meeting, I don't know what silver elixir will come out of any meeting at this point now. And so the idea of delaying until after that meeting is not like we'll have construction crews ready to go pending the outcome of that meeting. Like that's just another month, right? And so it's already been weeks, if not years. And so no, if they want to talk earlier, that, you know, they're more than welcome to, but you know, the town manager, whatever that date is, if you said it was the 5th, outside of that, probably depending weather, whatever it is, like I think that's the time and we should move forward with that.
That's the Tuesday after Labor Day weekend, right? Is the 5th, Mr. Town Manager?
And just for clarity, I had delayed until after the 5th. We have not heard from the contractor what the schedule is. And so Director Lewis and I spoke earlier today. She was reaching out to the contractor to find out what the viable schedule is. But the delay, obviously, they have to reschedule their crews. And so it'll be after the 5th. I don't know if it's the 6th. I don't know if it's the 7th. We'll find that out either tomorrow or the next day.
Okay. Have we incurred any additional cost from that delay?
That's something that's being worked out, sir. My guess is we will, because they'll have to remobilize.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you. Any additional council comments on this? Okay.
I have no comment on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that covers, I believe, everything through unfinished business. Have I forgotten any unfinished business items that I promised to discuss? Awfully quiet. That's good. Are there any items of new business? Calling once, calling twice.
Yes,
Go
the new
ahead.
business that I announced earlier today is concerning the Riverdale Plaza. All the parking lot, all the paint is faded. So if we can see what we can do about that to repaint that parking lot, even the handicap parking, all has been faded. So I don't know what we're going to do about that. That's why I brought it up today.
Okay, Mr. Town Manager, go ahead.
Staff will follow up, sir. Some of the things described may fall into the property maintenance code. Other things may fall in a zoning requirement for handicap parking, number of spaces, things like that, that we can report to the county.
Okay, so is that acceptable? We can get a report back in 2 weeks at the legislative meeting?
So, well, if he said so, it's okay.
So what will happen is that staff will reach out and determine whether we have any laws on our books that we can require the private property owner to do this painting quickly.
Okay.
And we'll get a report back in 2 weeks at the legislative meeting about what happened.
That'll be fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
of course. Any additional items of new business? Okay, we are not in a formal meeting, so the meeting's over and I'm gonna go find some dinner And thank you all for a lively and informative meeting. And have a great Labor Day weekend. And I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Say hi to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.